Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the Middle-Aged Mutant Show. My name is Ty, and let me welcome you to my co-hosts. First, we got No H. How you doing?
Well, you know what? I've been feeling really good. I've been a little worried about what I've been reading in the news lately.
Okay,
What?
No, none of this. Let's move on to our other co-host, Bodz. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I have read nothing in the news lately, so
That's
you don't have to worry about me.
That I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. Like no thoughts about anything.
No
However,
thoughts whatsoever.
Yeah. However, Noach, how do you feel about the Transgender Day of Vengeance being canceled?
Well, you know what? I was really looking forward to it. Like, because I remember the WWE.
Again, he constantly falls for it, Bodz. I don't know what we're gonna do with him. It's just. It's perpetual falling for my pranks.
He just
here.
really wants to talk about other things
really
other than
comics,
movies,
video games, and movies.
Speaking of,
Get with the program.
There was a DC crossover back when they call it Day of Vengeance, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Oh no, I don't know. You guys are the DC guys.
Maybe.
I'll have to look into that. And I'm thinking like maybe they're just big DC Comics fans, and we've been looking about this all wrong.
Yeah. We have common ground.
And maybe we'll reach out and see if one of them can be a guest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll let you guys handle that. You go talk to every trans person, and just kind of get that going. I can't be bothered. But let's go over let's just brief overview of what we're going to talk today. We're going to have a discussion about Wolverine and his blood. We're going to be talking about Punisher of yesteryear and Punisher of current day. We're going to be talking about Justin Roiland, Jonathan Majors, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Secret Invasion, Blue Beetle, and we're also going to be talking about how a new writer has joined the Deadpool 3 team. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell have a little bit of a funny moment on Twitter. And Brendan Flava wants his mummy. Let's go ahead and jump right into it's not going to be really the first topic. This is just the first thing that I thought this was a cute meme that we could show this week. Our meme of the week, people. I know Bodz is quite partial to this particular meme, so I was like, well, let's do this.
I love the. So, anyways, I started blasting. I love that. James, even James likes. He sends me memes with that. My son. I don't know. I don't know why it tickles me so much.
Well, it's just because that show is freaking awesome. I still want to watch the entirety of it, but the problem is that it's on Hulu and it's got commercials, and I hate the commercials, and I don't want to pay as much for it.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but certain episodes that are deemed too controversial are not included. Like I was watching it, waiting for one of my favorite episodes, the Lethal Weapon 5. Where they're making Lethal Weapon 5, and since they do blackface in there, it's not on Hulu. So I was like, when's this episode supposed to come already?
I did not know,
and it never did.
Which one is it? Charlie who does blackface?
No, I think they switch it up because they both want to be Riggs at one point. So like they switch it up. And if you can find that episode, it is funny. I mean, it's
on sale on Prime. I mean, and you probably can get it in physical. So
yeah, I mean, for sure you can get the physical copy of it. But that was my favorite episode, just because I love Lethal Weapon, and they were doing so many like stereotypes from Lethal Weapon. I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Wait a minute. So they do blackface. So is that what the Damon and Nightman thing?
No.
No, that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother rapey thing.
Man.
Is all pay for this boy's holes. Whoa, what?
Is that the other one isn't on Hulu?
I'm sure it is.
That one is on Hulu because I've actually seen that one. Yeah. One of my favorite episodes is whenever it's what's his head's the day to do whatever he wants, Mac. And so they're like, it's not his birthday. It's just like a day that they do. Like each one of them gets a day where everybody has to do what that person wants. And then they get towards like the last half of the day, And he's like, what are we doing here at this muscle man competition or whatever? And he's like, oh, we're gonna just rub oil on these beefcakes. And Danny DeVito's all, no. He gets so irate. We're not doing that.
Oh man, that's another show. It's kind of like we could probably spend so much time on that show just because
I know
there's so much of it. It is so funny, but yeah, it's one of those things. But I do love that meme. That meme is awesome.
It is
meme of the week for sure.
Meme of the week for sure. I actually made this one because there was already one made and it was just very badly done, and I was like, I've got to go in and make this one better.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Anyways, what'd you have to say, No H? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just that's just one of the many shows that I need to catch up on. But you know what? Much like you, Ty, you just any free time you find yourself with, you're just reading comic books.
Exactly. I don't watch TV much anymore. I just blaze through comics. I got through all of which we're going to talk about later. The Punisher. Welcome Back, Frank. I read it finally.
Okay. Good.
And
cool.
Y'all were like, oh, it's good. Y'all didn't say how funny it was. That was what you should have said. It is
awesome. Yeah.
It's absolutely hilarious.
Like anything you saw that was funny in the Tom Jane Punisher movie, they this from the comic book. They didn't make that up. That was actually in the comic. Oh, and by the way, did y'all see the post from Terran Tactical? Just like the other day, it had John Bernthal and Thomas Jane together. It's like two Punisher verse.
They're all I was gonna say, is it this multiverse of Punisher now?
I don't know. Pretty neat.
We need Dolph and
we need Dolph
there too.
Yeah, he should be there.
We need all four.
He wasn't bad.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't bad. I wouldn't have called it Warzone though, because it really didn't have much to do with the comic. But
I thought
it didn't.
They called it War Journal, but I understand you make a movie and for about a character that people already kind of said no to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You want sounds exciting, but the sense of humor for the Welcome Back, Frank, that whole run, that was part of the charm. And while I really loved the era of the Punisher comics written by Garth Ennis, they were so serious and I loved them, but I'm also like, I kind of miss, and they were just kind of having a crack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, whenever we come to that, we'll talk about that. But next, I want to announce that we will be doing an RPG on a different channel called Pantheon of Rolls is what it's called. It's a buddy of ours. And so we will be playing, I guess it's just called Alien RPG. I don't know. But we will, it'll be me, Bodz, No H, Luis, but people know him from the streams. And
he's our new mutant.
He's our new mutant. And I guess we're going to be having, what's your friend's name? Gosh, I've already forgot it.
Jeremy.
Jeremy. There you go. Jeremy. I was going to call him Joshua. I have no clue why. Jeremy, sorry about that. We're going to also have Jeremy, one of our other, I guess he's not middle-aged mutant. I guess he's like kind of on the edge.
He's middle-aged.
Okay.
He's middle-aged. Yeah.
He's 30s. So whatever that counts.
Okay. So he's right. He's about to hit the middle age. So we got Jeremy coming on, and so we'll be going ahead and playing that. We don't know if it's tonight or it's going to be later, but I'm going to guess it's pre-recorded, and I it's not going to be live stream like our game streams are. Go ahead.
Well, you need to edit out all the swears and the slurs and everything.
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be tons of them.
Ty spends a week editing out all of the bad, all the bad bits.
So much. A lot of this is just pasted together words we said that weren't cussing. It's all like, hey, how are you today?
You are derp. It's a lot of that.
So much
say
of
that. You say that, but you don't know, like, whatever we're recording. So you know how there's a delay when we're talking. Like I'll say something and then you react, and there's like a little delay. Sometimes it bothers me to such a degree that I have to go in and I remove all the delays. You think about that for like 2.5 hours. You think about that?
Oh man, that's a problem. That's like perfectionism. That's
so OCD right there. I had to be told by my wife, like, stop doing that. It's taking you too long. And so that's why the last episode we had came out so fast, because I didn't do it.
So
I mean, I listened to it. It sounded fine to me.
So real quick from experience, I feel Ty's pain and kind of like behind the scenes here. And I'm assuming lots of people have also encountered this, if they're interested in streaming and things like that. But when I was editing a podcast I used to do, I was like, well, how do you edit out like the pauses and other video things? I always thought, is there a program? Is there an app that does that? I could find nothing.
There is. I mean, you could put it into Premiere Adobe Audition, and you can do that. But this is hilarious because I'm going and editing out pauses for us sometimes. I did it, and it is absolutely hilarious. It's like, if you ever watch Speed Racer, you know how they talk like this and they talk really fast, yes. And then somebody just, that is exactly what it's like. It's just no pause. It's really fast. It's so funny. So
I think about the very not well known Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, where Dean Lerner, who's the guy from IT Crowd.
Yeah.
By the way,
Richard Ayoade.
Yeah, he's awesome. But he picks up the phone. Hello, goodbye.
Yeah.
That show. That's another show we need to talk about. Like, we need a spot for, because it is so funny. It's so good.
Yeah,
legit.
Both those shows, those Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, IT Crowd, good stuff.
Like Dark Place is legit, like the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I've showed that to my son, and like he liked it. Like I was like, it's just just off the wall.
That's a glowing review right there for that show, because the kid can't be bothered to watch a lot of stuff. So that's awesome.
I know.
It's not on TikTok. He doesn't want to see it. All right, kids.
No, it's not.
My son just
too long. 30 minutes.
My hasn't watched it. He's more about Blippi at this point. But
oh goodness, yeah, I've seen Blippi. I don't have kids, but my nieces, they're like, oh, Blippi, and I was like, oh God, shoot me now, because I cannot stand that crap. I liked Mr. Rogers though as a kid, so I can't say much. I was a kid. I was spellbound by Mr. Rogers, but Blippi, I'm like, with the weird. He's the guy with the glasses and the like.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so real quick, I think if you're a middle-aged mutant yourself listening at home, there's a chance you probably have children, or have had small children, or just around small children. And if you aren't supposed to, please call the police. But if small children, and you've probably experienced this at one time, and just for anybody who doesn't know, we're gonna go across the Blippiverse here. There's actually two Blippies, or two Blippi actors. But anyway, it's crazy to me that Blippi is like this. He's like this overgrown child character, but he always has like a 5 o'clock shadow. It looks like he just got off work, double, and he has to record this video playing in a playground. And it's like so creepy.
I just would love it if he had, like, before he got on there, he's like, hey guys, it's like really gruff. And then like comes on. It's just like levels out.
Yes.
I think this brings us to our first dad bods moment.
Oh yeah.
Hold on 1 second. I got it right here.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
All right.
So John is correct. There was another Blippi. And so when Jocelyn was little, that was the Blippi that was out there. And Blippi had just come out and stuff like that. But no way she may, correct me if I'm wrong, but like there is a certain point where kids are at a small age where they just don't let you sleep at all. At all.
Yep.
So it's like you will forgive anything just to get some rest. So I remember she put that on. I was like, who is this? This guy, some kind of pedophile? I don't care. Just go ahead, watch it. I just need to sleep. Go ahead.
Entertain yourself.
Turns out, I mean, he seems like he's a pretty good dude.
Yeah,
but
as far as I've heard, solid guy.
Yeah, it's just you forgive a lot once you're so far lack of rest. You're just you understand why people give out secret government information, because you're so tired. You're like, you sleep deprived. But here's what you need to know. Yes, just bomb my country. This is it. Let me sleep.
I don't care.
But
whatever you want.
So I understand.
And so I don't want to get too far off the agenda, but as of the recording, the Mario movie comes out. I want to say like tomorrow or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't know. If you've listened to previous episodes, you've probably heard me talk about how I don't know when anything comes out anymore. But
your son does?
I was thinking, that's a movie that I wish my son was a little bit older because I would go see that movie with him. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do society a favor and not.
Oh yeah, it comes out April 5th. You're right. It's tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
my
don't know.
kids
That's
are
kind of weird.
ready
A Tuesday,
for it. So.
a Tuesday for release. It's kind of weird.
Is it meaning like midnight? Coming out at midnight tomorrow?
Yeah, like
I don't know.
Technically Wednesday, but that's like they're expecting a huge.
Yeah.
Huge
that
audience
movie's
for
going to cross 1 billion. I can already tell you.
But will it dethrone John Wick 4?
Yeah. Well, as I tell that kind of, I didn't have it on the agenda, but let's go ahead and talk about that. But you're the only one of us, at least that I know of, that watched John Wick 4. So what did you think? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I went with our other friends that don't have children. So sorry, no H could not go because Dean didn't want to watch it. Even though you tried to explain that John Wick was blippy, he just grew his hair out. No, it was great. Like there's so many spoilers in there, so I don't want to give anything away.
Don't spoil it for us. But like, is it better than 3? Because I didn't like 3.
I would say it probably is because like it is longer. They go one thing that I've kind of taken for granted just because like I really wasn't thinking about it as I was watching it, but every movie kind of makes the world a little bigger. It's world building is what I think what this has going. And I read an interview with some of the people who are in charge of like distributing the first movie. The first movie was a low budget movie, and it had a hard time getting out because when Keanu, at that time he was kind of making flops. He did that 47 Ronin movie that same year, and it flopped. And so this movie they filmed it, and it wasn't. No one would distribute it. So I forget. I want to say it was Lionsgate maybe that distributed it.
Yeah, I think so.
And the fact that it was just something slightly different, the fact that it was like, his dog, he's getting vengeance for his dog, which Ty, you've expressed before that you're like, I get it. I would definitely do the same thing.
I would definitely do that for my dogs.
And so like people heard that and like, I remember thinking that's kind of ridiculous. Is that really the plot of the movie? It is up to a certain extent, but it's deeper than that. Obviously, if you've seen John Wick 1, there's more to it than just like that being a dog. That's like a symbol of like the last of goodness in his life. Yeah. So the fact that movie did so well, and then like the second came out and they've doubled it, and then like the last movie, the third movie, the bounty was 14 million. That was what was on his head. That's all the first movie made. I think that was a little nod to the first movie.
Really?
And then like, and so. Yeah, by the end of this movie, I think like the bounty in his head's like 40 million and stuff. But what's good about these movies are it's world building. I mean, they do the Continental, which is getting its own prequel show, and then the Ballerina, which is like the girl version of how they train the people, the Roma, hitmen and stuff. And then like the fourth one comes along and they introduce other characters. And what's really cool, and I know a lot of people are going to get this immediately, is like, I can't remember his name, but he was the IP man.
Donnie Yen? Are you?
Yes. He's amazing in there. He first scene with him is in there. He's sitting there and he's looking. Well, he's not looking because he's blind, but he has a pocket watch that's playing music. And I was like, that is a nod to Fistful of Dollars. Because Angel Eyes had the music playing pocket watch of his daughter. And so then you get another character in there. He's called Nobody, and he has a dog, and he's a tracker, and he's a nobody. Like he doesn't ever tell anybody his name, and he's hunting John Wick.
Nobody. He's just a floating head.
He's a floating head from like via Thor, the last Thor movie that looks really bad. No, he's a tracker who's also going after John Wick, but only when he gets to a certain mountain. He's always like, he gets to him, he's like, not high enough, like that. Bounty's not big enough yet, so he keeps letting him go. But you could tell that they're doing the good, bad, the ugly kind of thing here with two other people that are cool characters in themselves, But yeah, without giving that away too much, it's like this movie, like they built it up to that this is the end. Or it's not, and that's the thing about the John Wick movies. Like you don't know.
Like,
but
how much money did we make? We made about $1 billion.
Exactly.
All right, another one.
Yeah, they're already like talks of 5. So
Oh, I'm sure, dude. There's no way you start printing money like that, and they'll do anything. That's why there's a Joker 2, and they haven't shit canned it for the DCU now. There's a reason
because it made money.
It made a lot of money. It was cheap. I guarantee you they ate up a lot of it this time with Lady Gaga. But
yeah. But that's the thing. The thing with like movies, like if they make money, and Joker probably is a good example of this because Joker is not tied to anything. Nor was John Wick. They never had to do anything where it's like, oh, I don't know, this is based on the book, and he doesn't do this in the book. No, they got to build their own universe, and that's a lot. How hard it is to build a pop culture character nowadays that's not based on anything. Yeah, he's not based on anything. So they got to like make this character. He's cool. Let's make a sequel. Build the world up a little bit more. And by the 4th movie, there's like hitmen all over the world, and there's continental hotels all over the world, and there's like the High Table and all these like different heads of these houses and orphanages where they train people, families, and it's just from something that started off as like a cliche like vengeance movie. That was originally going to be called I think it was called Scorn was the original title for the movie. Just built into this huge universe where they're already doing spin-offs. That's hard to do nowadays because everything is expected to be a comic book or a built-in IP.
Well, see, that's what I lament about like current movies is like if you go back and look at like December of like 1987, the movies that were coming out at that time were all like new IPs basically. And people took chances on this stuff because your movie didn't cost $200 million to make. I mean, you get around with like a $40 million budget or less. And I mean, still for that time, that's probably that was a huge chunk of change. But people were all willing to take a chance back then. And all of a sudden, nobody is. It's like investors like, if it's not a sure thing, I don't want it. But the thing is these movies now, they're not a sure thing. You could make a $200 million movie like Ant-Man, and you only pull in 150, man. It's like, so for every dollar I spent, I only made 75 cents back. That eventually will happen. They'll stop doing it and start taking chances on lower budget or mid-tier movies.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, if you just give them a chance, give these things
try
a chance.
Something new. The only thing, I mean, you've already lost money on these big budget things. What do you lose by trying right now? Nothing. Yeah. You could have a major hit like John Wick, but
and he's a character that's pop culture. He's in it now. Literally, James, my son was like, this was something he saw on things him and his friends are on. It's like John Wick versus Rambo. It's like, you've made it if you're going against like Rambo or someone like that. So it's like, just, you don't know what the next thing's going to be unless you take a chance.
Yeah.
What this show is all about, kids. It's just following your dreams.
Follow your dreams. Give us a chance.
Give us a chance.
Take a chance.
Take a chance on us. Try liking and subscribing if you do.
Yeah. It'd be really interesting. And like, hopefully there is some type of turnaround where there's just that these movies will kind of have to go back to more untested things because the only way it's ever going to work is if a significant enough amount of people stop watching these things. And I'm like about this the other day, like when the new Marvel thing comes out, which is probably going to be not the best, right? I'll probably pay to, and that, or some garbage comes out that's like nerd related, and my nerd curiosity will get the best of me, and I'll be like, go see this. And like my dollar that I spent on a movie ticket, or even my viewing, my stream of it, or whatever it is, that just tells the people in charge, like, I guess people like this shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, God, no. But don't. But
I mean, money speaks.
Yeah. Everywhere. We talk like I was remember like the new Superman movie from James Gunn. Let's say it just all of our fears are confirmed, and it's like this piece of trash, right? I'm like, I probably see it anyway because I'm just so curious. And all James, a lot of people that saw this movie, they paid to see this movie. I guess I have to do another one. Yeah. Even though on Twitter everyone's going to trash it, but I'm like, that reminds me, there's this other thing I saw, and this may not be the case for DC because we can transition here maybe to most DC related things, as it's always on my brain. But I saw this thing, this stupid thing on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, which I believe you can follow us on Twitter now.
Yeah, now we have a Twitter. It's at. I gotta see what it is. I haven't looked at it in a while.
I don't even follow.
Let's see. Go ahead, keep talking though. I'll figure out what we are.
But there's this, and this is the. It was this thing where, speaking of the Blue Beetle trailer, which we'll get to, it's there's this later part where Jaime Reyes in the Blue Beetle suit, the scarab suit, he like nearly crashes into a body of water, but his armor thrusters prevent him from doing this. And Snyder fan pointed out that Cyborg did something similar. Like, Snyder's the blueprint. And luckily there was someone on Twitter that's like, I really wish you'd stop saying Snyder's the blueprint when you point out coincidences that happen in a lot. And I'm like, I just thought about, first thing I thought about is like, well, it's not exactly the same thing. But when the first Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise did something very similar. It's a very
similar.
He kind of, the whole point is he can't floor or anything because the floor is locked, and he has to like, do his whole. That was parodied so many times. It's a famous scene. So I'm like, is like Brian De Palma or whoever directed, that's the blueprint. If anybody, you know, or whoever directed, I don't remember, but like Tom Cruise is the blueprint. There you go. And
there you go.
Someone tweeted a response like, DC fans on Twitter packed, DC fans in the theater, empty seats. And I'm like, man, that is pretty accurate. You know what I mean? How many bombs do we have to see? This is another thing we talk about where hopefully there's some type of reset. And I hope in the development of these new DC movies, the James Gunn, he's not the main guy, he's not the only guy, but it's pretty much the James Gunn verse, right? Where he pays attention to this, where it's like there's a lot of vocal fans on the internet, but not enough of them are actually going to see these movies in the theater. And I hope they pay attention to this, like what went wrong. And I'm like, first of all, you don't let The Rock try to take over your The Rock, who's been only in The Rock, who's did not allow Shazam to be in his movie or whatever, or vice versa, because he didn't think he's interesting enough, which infuriates me because it's like, if you really you would be like, hey, we have to fight Captain Marvel. That's like Black Adam's whole deal.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm gonna take what I like. It's that's retarded. I didn't know that he had said that specifically.
I wonder if it's because like it's like it would make him the bad guy. I was like, you are the bad guy.
It's like, Black Adam's not a good guy, bro. Why did you pick this character to play if you didn't want to be a bad guy? So stupid.
You want to be the anti-hero.
And like, it's unfortunate that you waited till you're like 50 to do this, but you know, and it doesn't help with Zachary Levi. I like him, but he was practically whining about what to flop. I'm like, you didn't hear Paul Rudd going like,
oh yeah, didn't he fan blamed big time, didn't he?
Yeah, he fan shamed a lot. It wasn't like, it's essentially fan shaming, but I don't think he meant that, but it came off that way. He doesn't seem like the type of guy who would do that, but it's also like, you're still really coming off as whining, and that's unfortunate. It's like, but he didn't like Paul Rudd, Ant-Man 3. Everybody said, oh, that movie bombed. Paul Rudd isn't out here saying like, why did you see Ant-Man 3? He got paid. He's moving on to do it.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm still Paul Rudd.
I'm still Paul Rudd. I'm still rich. Who cares?
Another Ghostbusters movie. Who cares?
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to the next topic. We're actually we flip flop the format of the show. Now we're gonna talk about comic books at the beginning because I wanted to do that. I feel like by the time the spot that No H and Bodz would have the most to say is at the end. I was like, and No H has to leave usually early, so I'm like, we're not gonna do that anymore. We're gonna have the comic book stuff at the beginning. So Bodz had sent an article, and I don't have the article up, and I'm not gonna show it, but
and I refuse.
And I refused to show. There was the Alien RPG that I was supposed to show. That's the only graphic that I had. It was the article was specifically about this comic right here, Wolverine issue 12, and this was a storyline. It was weird. This was kind of like a storyline within another storyline in this comic, where Wolverine is basically tracking he's trying to track down these people that are selling or actually stealing petals that are being exported from Krakoa, which is where the mutants live now. I had no clue this is all new to me. Like that, where the X-Men went after like the 90s is an absolute well, I guess after House of M, because Onslaught
early 2000s for me.
I remember Onslaught, and then the Ultimate X-Men came out and all that, and then I kind of just dropped off the X-Men. And right now the stuff that I have read of the X-Men, I'm like, I don't know. This Krakoa thing seems to me like just a killer of stakes. It's just, nobody can die anymore, but we can kill people constantly because they can be resurrected and all that. And I'm like, don't like that. Don't like that at all. But anyway, so so they live in Krakoa now, and I think Krakoa is like on Mars or something like that. That's where because they can go to and from it with portals, from what I understand.
So they moved the whole island.
Yeah, I think they moved the island because they're saying now, or maybe they said back in the past, because I know Krakoa has been in the comics in the past.
That was the Living Island. The Giant Size X-Men #1 is where they team up to go rescue the original X-Men.
Yeah, and they said that Krakoa is a mutant. It's like a mutant like body of land. And so I thought I was like, that's kind of a cool idea, but not the way they're doing it, because like I said, you can die on Krakoa, or I guess you can die anywhere really, and Krakoa can resurrect you. And so this is like, for example, this comic, the first issue of this book, you see Jean Grey dead, and a couple other mutants that I'm not aware of. They have this guy with a pink mohawk and a couple other people. And I was like, I'm just not interested in that person. I want to see the old mutants, but they're all dead. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then like maybe 2 issues later, they're like, oh, we're back. We're alive again. I was like, oh, okay. That's like nothing happened. But anyway, so what Wolverine's been tasked with in this book was he was tasked with going and investigating who's stealing basically these exports of these petals that are grown from flowers on Krakoa, because they export them to I guess the Earth, so that they can be used for medicines and stuff. And so he does that, and so that's the main part of his story. He meets this guy that's part of part of the CIA, and then all of a sudden it splits off into this story about Dracula, and it's kind of like a schizophrenic book, if you ask me. But like he ends up trying to track down Dracula, because I guess Dracula is also giving these petals to people, and they're using them to become like these crazy, like not quite mutants, but they have kind of powers people. And then it turns out it's just like a ruse to get Wolverine, because Dracula basically finds out that Wolverine has like this really specific blood type they're calling it the E blood type, because you have AB, and O. Okay, so within those you have two RH pairs, rhesus, whatever they call RH. It's basically antigens that react to those bloods. So like 8 in total. And they through like research and time, they found out that there's like way more than that. There's like 346 or something like that. Oh yeah, 346. And what happens is they find out Wolverine's is like super crazy effective at dealing with any kind of disease. He can ward off like basically any like radiation, all these things, because of his blood type. And we kind of already knew that because he's got a healing factor. So and if he can get like for example, if he can, here's where it says it says he can stave off infection, malignancy, autoimmune disorders, and he's basically a compatible blood type with every family, because I guess his blood doesn't react to any antigen, and much like O does. And they said once transfused, it has like a curative effect, but once it's outside of the body, his blood like loses those properties. So they basically said his blood is like a vault. His body is like a vault of blood. So it's all special in there, but not special outside. But Dracula has pretty much figured out that, well, if I drink his blood, it basically is like transfusing to him, and it gets rid of some of his problems. Like, for example, he can walk in the sun, and which it showed there was a page where he's actually walking and he's like talking to Omega Red about becoming one of his minions, because in Krakoa, the only way you can become part of Krakoa or a citizen of Krakoa is if you're a mutant, and I think that's the only way you can actually make it through the portals or whatever, which I call a little bit of bullshit on, because if you see later news, Kingpin shows up and it's because he's married to Typhoid Mary. So I'm like, I was like, so Krakoa is like he's like customs, where he's like, well, I mean, he's, I was like, he has technicalities, like Kingpin walks through, well, he is married to her, and he knows this. What the hell? But
you just married Typhoid Mary to stay in the States, didn't you?
yeah.
Hard for mutants.
yeah, exactly. But that's basically what that article was about. That Wolverine's blood is like hyper special. In fact, the E variant it's 1 person in 8 billion. So that means he's actually one of a kind, and that makes it very. Apparently, his blood is even different than his brother. I guess it is his brother, right? Creed is his brother. I
can't remember.
Sabretooth. I think he is.
Anymore, but I think half brother. I think he's his half brother.
And
if I remember right.
He's different than Deadpool and Omega Red. They all have healing factors, but they're not quite the healing factor that Wolverine has. So, and plus, isn't Deadpool's blood? He is a mutant, right? He's like
no, he's not a mutant.
Yeah, his blood.
Tried to.
Go ahead.
It was derivative from Wolverine, like the healing factor, and I guess blood, because now we're going like the blood is really the healing factor in Wolverine.
Yeah.
But his thing was like he's dying of cancer, right? Normal human. Yeah. And they tried to duplicate it with try to basically Weapon X him like with like Wolverine kind of healing factor, but I guess because the cancer cells or something like that, and it just kept on he just constantly is in a state of healing. So that's why his skin always looks like it's healing, and so it's like
well, maybe the cancer he had was so virulent that it's like a weaker healing factor, and it's just constantly healing with like reckless abandon, and he can't stop, because if it stops for any amount of time, he'll just die.
Yeah, and I know when he does lose it, he starts dying of cancer again. So, I mean, they even showed that in the movie, but that in the comic book, it's happened in the comic book again.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and I mean, apparently his healing factor is better than Wolverine's. I guess not his blood, but his healing factor, because he.
Yeah, he's overactive
faster.
Healing factor.
Yeah, it's just over.
Which I think is weird too, because I remember reading in the 90s whenever I think was it Kelly Jones was writing, and it was Joe Madureira that was it Joe Madureira? No, it was Ed McGuinness that was drawing at the time. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was an issue where he was trying one of his fingers got snapped off, and he
wasn't something to do with Hulk.
Yeah, it had something to do with Hulk, because what he did was he had to go find the Hulk, and he had to pierce his skin to get some of his blood, because that was the only way he could grow his finger back. And I was like, I don't exactly remember the storyline, but I was like, his healing factor isn't that good then, because he should have grown the limb back.
Yeah, I mean, he would have. Nowadays, he would have. But so I really don't know what's going on there. And I know what you're talking about, because there was something to do with the gamma radiation in Hulk's blood.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember what it was about, but I remember you buying that issue.
Yeah.
And showing me. I actually remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember that whole deal that he had to do that, and it was fun. It was at the time. I mean, it was the 90s.
It was just a fun
90s,
Yeah, and he's like, well, I'm going against the Hulk, and it was just kind of a fun little one-shot thing.
That was like his, well, I mean, it was part of his new series, because remember, he got really popular in the 90s, because I guess they were like, well,
that was
him kind
very
of
early issue of that.
Yeah. So anyways, that's basically what they were saying in this issue. And I got to say, I haven't read Wolverine for a long time. I do dig his costume that they have him in now. It's pretty cool. But I have to
it's like the brown and yellow. Right? Yeah. I dig it too.
But I have to say, go ahead.
I always take the brown and the yellow. It's It's more like
and it's like that. It's those colors, but kind of a modernized version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm
sure.
what I'm hoping is that they use that in the movie too.
Me too. I mean, you saw the little cut scene from which one was that one? It was
It's
the
the
one,
Wolverine, yeah.
the Wolverine. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
and
Wolverine,
they open the thing, and there's like the brown and yellow suit in
Dude,
there. Like, use
that
it,
was so awesome. Yes.
put it on.
Yeah, which to me annoys me to no end. It's sort of like I'm getting over this now, but for years and years, it was always this is you telling me that you know what I really want, but you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Supposed to
It sucks because Wolverine is one of the few characters that can get away with it, because you've seen him enough as just like, I'm wearing a tank top and that's it. Well, not that's it. He has pants on, but
I'm naked.
You know what I mean.
Well, plus two probably would have helped.
We've seen him.
helped.
We've seen him naked. So,
Probably would have helped Hugh Jackman with a little bit of the skin cancer problem if he would have wore the damn mask.
yeah. He. I saw something posted yesterday about the.
Yeah, he's got more.
Nose. So
Yeah,
I hope all is well with that.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to.
Well, I'm on the phone right now, Hugh. If you want to join in, and
yeah,
Hi.
we're gonna cut him in.
Hello, this is me, Hugh Jackman.
mate, I don't know what
Good day.
Good
Governor.
Good
the
day.
horror.
Don't wear your sunscreen.
Why you sunscreen?
It makes me think of what was that? The guy that I forget his name. He's on that show. Not Why the Last Man or whatever, but he was on Flight of the Conchords. He's like, "You bloody Drango, you bloody Drango." I don't know his name, but that horrible accent.
Yeah, their manager Murray, right?
Murray,
No, it wasn't Murray. No, it was like remember how like Murray thinks he's like, I suck at my job and I just can't do anything right. So they go and they talk to this. Well, they're doing a show and this guy comes up and he's like, oh man, your show is so hilarious. And he's like, the accents you guys come up, the personas are so hilarious. And no, we're actually from New Zealand. This is real. And he goes, oh, well, I'm so-and-so and I'm an actor and I'd love to like work with you guys. And so they go and he's right. He's like a dry cleaner.
It was
I can't remember his name.
Will Forte, right?
Okay, yeah. So and he's like, hey guys, I've been working on your accent, and like he's like, tell me if this is any good. They're all, oh, you bloody Drango, you bloody Drango. No, that's Australian. That's not us. That's not us.
And that's what you were trying to say. Why the Last Man? But you're talking about Last Man on Earth.
Last Man on Earth. Yeah, Why the Last Man is like a comic book. Yeah, sorry.
With enough clues, you can figure out who Ty is talking about, because he will not know the actor's name.
No, I will not. You got to like come with me on a journey to figure out who I'm thinking of.
This is another middle-aged portion of the show.
Yeah,
where we just
exactly. I haven't had like it's not that I haven't had enough, I haven't had too much or enough. I just haven't had exactly the right amount of caffeine this morning. When I have too much, it's really crazy, and when I have not enough, it's not crazy enough. But yeah, go ahead.
We went crazy, Ty. One of these shows is Ty bouncing out the walls, basically. Just like crack Ty. Just went crack Ty.
Well, if you've ever seen me like after I've only had a Monster like two times in my life. And that is too much. I remember sitting in my office one time after drinking one, and I just started I remember I raised my hands next to my face and I shook them really hard, and I was like, "What is wrong with me? This is so crazy feeling." And it's just because it's like 10 times the amount of just a can of Coke. So I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's too much caffeine." I found the right amount there.
Here's what I want to see. Forget Cocaine Bear. I want Cocaine Ty to show up one of these days.
Yeah, no joke. Oh, speaking of that, did y'all know this is crazy? Apparently, okay, so like Coca-Cola, they used, I guess, as it was an excitation of the actual like coca leaf, the manufacturing process where they would like make this particular ingredient for Coca-Cola, and one of the excitations of that was cocaine, and so they used to include it in the Cokes, right? Well, they still need that ingredient to make Coke what it is, so they make it still and manufacture it in this like super secret facility. But the cocaine, they hand that off to like the CIA and the FBI. I was like,
wow,
because they're like, well, we can't, like, it's pure cocaine. There's nothing we can, like, not like we can sell it to anybody else and not, not get in trouble. So they have like a specific, I guess, agreement with the government for this one ingredient. They can export it in, they can process it, and then they have to take it and give it to the CIA or whatever. I was like, holy
I wonder
crap.
if it's like derivative from it, like THC from marijuana, where it's like
they can't help but in the process of manufacturing this particular ingredient, they cannot help but get this pure cocaine out of it. And I'm sure there's people like rubbing their teeth in there constantly, like, yep, that's good stuff.
No way. This just like this. I feel like if there hasn't been a movie about this, there should be.
Should be.
And also, it just kind of this is the power of brand marketing and just like the brand loyalty, where Coke is so damn good. Government, like a little cocaine's fine.
Yeah. We have to have
it makes me wonder what was in New Coke now. It's like,
yeah, no joke.
They're probably like, hey, let's try it without the cocaine. No, it's not working. There's no cocaine back in there.
It tried to introduce non-cocaine Coca-Cola in the 80s. Forget about it. The 80s?
The 80s, that's what we needed the most.
I know, all the yuppies start like jumping out of like like tall buildings and stuff. Because like, no cocaine.
I can't make it through my day with this New Coke.
Yeah, no joke. All right, so moving on to the next topic. Let's get there. Punisher.
Oh, the Tim Bradstreet covers. Love it.
Love them.
1 through 12, aka Welcome Back, Frank. Now, I'm not going to show any screens of this just because most people have read it, and I don't want to spoil this for anybody because it was never spoiled for me, and I figure I want to do the same for the world here. But I do want to talk about it. So I was working at a comic shop when this stuff came out, and I remember just glancing at the artwork and thinking, oh, well, I don't really like this Steve Dillon guy. It was actually around the time, I don't know if you guys remember, but they had like, I want to say War Machine got a comic and it was weekly. It was the most terrible artwork I have ever seen. It was like, I don't remember the guy who drew it, but it was like, he used computer he used like 3D graphics software to actually basically he would like put all the characters in like in situations and stuff, and like then he would just trace over them with his like pencil and stuff and then color them. But actually it was a black and white, so he just ink it. And I was always, that's what Steve Dillon's artwork reminded me of. And I was just like, ugh, I know he's not doing that, but I was like, I was not into it at the time. But everybody was telling me at the time it was a good book. Like they were like, oh man, this is crazy. It's really refreshing look at the Punisher. And I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of ugly. So I was stupid superficial at the time.
I kind of wish he would have put one picture from inside there, one of the Steve Dillon drawings, because literally all of his people that he draws, they're all kind of ugly people.
Yeah, their faces all look alike.
They look like the dude from Dumb and Dumber who tries to kill them and gets killed by his own like rat poisoning. They look like the personification of like that guy.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
I've always thought that guy looks like
I forget his name, but I recently watched Goodfellas and he appears in that as well. And it's like, yeah, there he is. And
you're right. Yeah, he does look like that.
And he has like the nose and things like that.
The nose and the teeth, and like you're just like, that's the character right out of that run of Punisher right there.
And that to me is sort of, I can see what you're saying, because it's the faces kind of start to look the same a little bit, but also I'm like, I know I'm always conflicted because I'm like, I like, we like to draw, but it's all, so we kind of understand how freaking hard it is, especially to churn out drawings, meeting a deadline and things like that. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm not doing it professionally because I'm not good enough. You're supposed to be good enough to do this.
Yeah.
But
and there is a professionalism to it. Like after a while, if a particular artist, that's usually how I can tell who it is like looking at specific items of anatomy. It's how I can tell, oh, that guy drew it or this guy drew it. That was like when I was younger, that was my superpower, and I still can do it.
You were great at that.
If I've seen your artwork before, I can look at it and tell you exactly who did it. I always like envisioned one day, I was like, one day I'm going to use this where they try to pass off a fake on me, and I'm going to go, no, that's not so and so, that's so and so, and I was, like have a job doing that, because I could look at anybody's art as long as I'd seen you before. I could tell you exactly who drew it, and if it was it had happened in the past where somebody, oh, this is a Jim Lee. I remember somebody was showing me, I can't remember where I was, and they're all, yeah, he drew it for me. And I was like, no, he didn't. He did not draw that.
That is not him.
It's not him. And I said, I can't remember who I said it was, but I was like, it's this guy. And he's like, oh yeah, you're right. His name is right.
I like that in Ty's wildest fantasies. He's all like, this bomb will go off if you don't tell us who this is. And if you're wrong, people will die.
Comic criminal profiler type of guy.
Yeah. No, you could tell by the blood artwork the guy left. Yeah, Jim Lee did it.
Yeah, the splatter.
It's a Jim Lee copycat. Wrong. Yeah. Jim Lee's innocent.
These are fake. Like I always pictured myself having like one of those like loops, the little like jewelry loop that you look through and looking at it, going, yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You could tell by the blood strokes. I don't know.
The spatter, the spatter they use with the brush. This isn't Jim Lee's pattern.
Jim Lee would never.
You would never agree to that. But the ugly, I'll say ugly, quote unquote, artwork. There was a charm to it because people were kind of ugly and they were kind of funny looking, and that added to the overall humor of the book. Which you look at the first cover, you're like, this is just a guy who's just going to go around murdering people, and he does. But it's like there's also a lot of humor, like the Spacker Dave character, like the
Bumpo.
Mr. Bumpo,
And seeing Joan in the comic, I don't know how, looking at Joan in the comic, how you got Rebecca Romaine Stamos out of it.
Yeah, like a mousy, character, shut-in character who lives in these low-rent apartments is supermodel Rebecca Romaine Stamos.
Yeah.
Come on.
I kind of, there's a couple of times in the beginning when I was looking at it where I was like, oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. Where I was looking at it going, oh, this is, I think he modeled this chick after Brittany Murphy, I want to say is what it looked like for like 2 or 3 frames. And then I was like, no, actually, I think it's not. So you could tell, but all his, to be honest, later, most of his women look the same. They have this like kind of square face. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is just how he draws chicks. Never mind. But,
girls are hard to draw, man.
Yeah, girls are hard to draw. But like I said, everybody told me to read this book, but nobody said, oh my God, this is one of the funniest books that I have ever read. It is absolutely hilarious. Some of the stuff that happens in this book, like in the movie, how like he has it's only Harry Heck, I want to say, that comes after him. And the Russian. Those are the only 2 from the book, Harry Heck and the Russian. And so they combine scenes too, because in here, you have whenever you're watching the movie, Harry Heck shows up and he basically is like a cowboy. In the comic, he doesn't play guitar or anything like that. He just, as far as I know, he just looks like a cowboy. And they have like a meeting with these all these hitmen, and like Punisher is basically just sitting there in the background listening to them as they're like plotting his murder, and then he just systematically kills everyone. I'm like, just immediately after they have this meeting, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go take him out. One of them's like a martial art guy, one's like a sniper, and then you have Harry Heck, and he just shows up and start blasting away at them. So I love that, like this, like Kurt, like, well, the Punisher would never have this much, like is unless it's the Russian in this book, it seems like he doesn't have a problem with anybody. He just basically like mows through anybody that that gets in his way. And the other thing I liked in this book was like they had that side story with Detective Martin Soap.
Yeah.
And I just love the idea that like they're like, well, so the main story is about Ma Nucci, right? Ma Nucci is or the Nucci family. The Punisher's trying to take them down, and I think he's taken down most of them as far as I remember reading. He like killed the better part of the family. And the only one that's left is Ma Nucci. And she basically talks to the cops and says, you better, get the Punisher. And then they're like, well, we can't exactly work with the mob, but we, she kind of does pay us. A lot of us are on the take. So basically they just put like Detective Soap on the job because he's has super bad luck. Like he can't get anything right. He at one point, I guess in the newer series, he talks about how he was even adopted. Like his mom just basically dropped him off, and he has the worst luck of any guy out there. And I love that he meets that other chick that's like a disgrace, only because she didn't want to sleep with like I want to say it was like the police commissioner or something like that. And at first, right? It's the psychologist, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The psychologist. I can't remember the psychologist's name, but he basically gets paired with this guy, and he thinks, oh, this is another detective, and he turns out he's just like a clinical psychologist, and he's kind of like this nerdy guy. But I like that it had that extra story, but it wasn't just the Punisher basically mowing through bad guys.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Nige.
Just to give a time frame, you said you were working at a comic book shop at the time. This was
2000.
2000. I want to say like 99, 2000, that era. And so to kind of give you like a frame of reference for anybody who haven't read it, doesn't know, like wonder like, is this currently going on? Like, no, this is over. This is back in the go.
This was the bringing Punisher back from being an avenging angel, supernatural character to like, this is welcome back, Frank. And they literally just made him more of a down to earth street level.
One of the Marvel Knights.
Even wearing a T-shirt, just main.
They basically got rid of everything
person
that made him like Punisher before. Like he didn't have micro, and he was just bare bones Punisher. He was doing all the surveillance himself. He was equipped himself. Everything was done by him. And the name of the guy that was the clinical psychologist, I thought it was so funny. His name was Buddy Plug, and I was like, come on now. If you don't expect to laugh at Buddy Plug, and he's just this like Coke bottle glass guy, and it's just so funny. And what happens to him is hilarious too. It's sad. It's sad, but when I read that part, I laughed out loud, and I was like, oh my god, that's so horrible. Go ahead.
What's funny about like this is a large portion of this whole series, this whole comic was a bit of a reaction to how poorly received the first version. I guess it was Marvel Knight, so he was like a supernatural element or something like that.
He was dead, and I guess he was brought back kind of like an angel. He could just like reach in his coat and pull out a gun. I mean, he didn't have to be there. He could, whatever he could think of. He was almost like Green Lantern, where he could just anything he could think of would just pop out and he could use it. And I was like, that's not a very good idea for the Punisher.
And I won't spoil anything, but it is addressed very quickly in the first issue.
Yes.
And it's like, it kind of tells you, it sets the tone for the whole run. It's like, yes, we're going to mention it, but that is, we aren't going to dwell on that. And it's funny. So this, to me, I remember reading that, thank goodness, for that previous one, I tried it and it wasn't very good. I read like the first issue and it dropped off. And now I look at what Punisher's doing now. I'm like, did we learn nothing? You know what I mean?
It's almost like it's doing the same thing now.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. And, Ty and I were talking a little bit this morning about how kids who grew up in around this time where the Star Wars prequel movies were first coming out, us older people, the elder millennials and the Gen Xers, we saw the new Star Wars movies, and there may have been some excitement at the spectacle at the beginning, but then we started thinking and realized these aren't very good.
Yeah.
And I've since developed an ironic love of these movies. They're super fun to watch now.
Yeah.
But they aren't anything I would consider to be good in the traditional sense of the word, right? So now I think there's kids now who grew up with it who legitimately like these movies. It was their movie, right?
Yeah.
Wonder if this is sort of what's happening. There was this weird subset of a generation of kids who only read the Supernatural Punisher and developed this weird love of it.
Possibly.
All 4 issues, they were like, "Oh, this is my Punisher."
And now they're old enough to write comic books for Marvel. So
oh yeah, no joke, no joke. Oh, yeah, that's true. I didn't think think about that.
We are middle-aged mutants, so we've lived long enough to see like history repeat itself. So.
Yes.
Also, got to talk about in this book, like, so there's not only the story of Martin Soap that's going on, but it's also this. It's not. I guess it would be considered a subplot where the Punisher comes back and he basically inspires a whole new generation of. They think they're heroes, but they're not. Kind of like anti-hero. Like I would say they're not good guys. He inspires the Holy, the Mr. Payback, and the Elite. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And so they basically, I mean, the Holy, he's basically just a priest who happens to listen to confession one day. And this is the part that I don't get. So he's listening to this guy in the confessional and he's talking about, oh yeah, like it's horrible. Like I murdered this guy and I like raped this chick and it's like all this stuff. And he's like, he just loses his mind and whips out a hatchet from where? I don't know. He's in the church. He had a hatchet is what I'm thinking. And they're just thinking one of these days, I swear to God, I'm going to kill somebody when they tell me something horrible. And so he just whips out this hatchet and just chops this guy up in his confessional. And I'm not really giving anything away because they there's a bunch of stuff in this book, but he chops this guy up and then he gets helped by the part that cracked me up about that whole thing was that he's like, oh crap. And he's trying to clean up and that old lady shows up and basically just like, oh honey, my hearing's not what it used to be. And neither is my eyesight. And is that spilt wine? Oh, I'll clean it up. And he basically just takes advantage of this lady's kindness. And she goes and cleans up every murder that he ever does. And then there's the Mr. Payback, which he's just a commie. If you ask me, that's what they were going for. That's why he wears the red bandana over his head. I was like, yeah, he's a commie. And then the obvious Mr. Elite. Oh yeah, he's just like a derivative of the Democratic Party's Ku Klux Klan, by the way. He's just a Nazi, Yeah. So yeah, I liked that was going on in the background. And then interestingly, the Daredevil shows up in the book. And I think the scene with Daredevil was lifted by Daredevil season 2, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think so. I don't remember. Is it where the Punisher is going to snipe some dude and he says, okay, Hornhead, here's a pistol in your hand. It is like taped to his hand. He's like, you can either shoot me or you can let this guy die. And it's basically ripped from Welcome Back, Frank. And it's really well done. I mean, they were pretty true to it. And I actually really enjoyed seeing Daredevil show up in this book because you can't really, to be honest, you can't really have the Punisher without Daredevil popping in every once in a while because it's just, that's their thing. So they're like chocolate and
they're best friends.
Yeah. I think they went to school together or whatever. But and then you got like I said, let's go back to like Specker Dave and everybody. They're kind of to me, they were just more of a footnote in this book than in the actual movie. In the movie, they played like a large part, but in here, he basically he comes across him whenever he goes to his house. He's like, hey, Dave. He's like, oh man, it's Specker Dave. Remember Specker? And so, and it's just like they constantly have to be doing like these jokes about Mr. Bumpo. They're like for example, like, well, we put the plate steel toilet in your house this time, Mr. Bumpo. So if you break that, I don't know what to give you. And Joan is just, she had more of a part in the movie than she has here. She never really she was kind of a love interest in the Punisher. And I think that's the other thing is like Rebecca, they needed a love interest for Thomas Jane. Rebecca Romaine Stamos, I guess. And even with her horrible acting in that movie, whenever she starts crying, I was like, oh my God, stop. Please stop. Please stop fake crying. You're really bad at it.
The spoiler, I'll go ahead and say the thing that this series, the comics, doesn't have is a John Travolta person in this. At least I don't.
He's Monucci.
Yes.
The epitome of mom. I don't know.
The character John Travolta played in Mamma Mia, whatever it was, where he played the he just
or
had the
Hairspray. You know, when he played a girl in Hairspray, that's him. Basically.
Yeah.
But and then there's the character Manucci, which is basically, you know what I thought when I was reading that whole thing. Her voice in my head was the old lady from Futurama. The mom's friendly robot company. That was her voice. I was like, that is who Manucci is to me.
Yeah.
And she basically treats everybody like that too. She's all, oh, you dumbass. She keeps calling people like nose pick and
there's creative insult.
Yeah, lots of funny stuff she says to people. And her arc is pretty funny too, because she pays to basically have the Punisher like taken out, and nothing goes her way because all her guys are highly incompetent. And then how she like what happens to her is so funny. Like the zoo scene is to me, I was describing it to my wife and she's like, oh my God, that's horrible and sounds kind of dumb. And I was like, yeah, but the thing is, it's comic booky. That's the whole reason I like this book is I forgive some of its weirder, more like strange parts are good because they're more comic book and campy than we're previously used to. Because like I said, like you said, whenever they took Punisher and they made him like this ethereal being, it was just too serious. It doesn't work. He needs a little bit of an edge. Sometimes,
a
little bit of tongue in cheek. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in Warzone, he had the funny popsicle shtick, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, it just sometimes
he has a sense of humor. He's not like
he does.
And it gets real. Like he really has a sense of humor. Like after, like you guys don't read any of this, but now that he's the cosmic Ghost Rider, he basically has a sense of humor on par with Deadpool. And that's who people thought he was initially because the wisecracking, like, oh my God, this has to be Deadpool, but it turned out to be Castle. And he just lived so long that he just had a sense of humor about everything.
Yeah.
I liked the pretty much I don't have like a specific part of this book where I can critique it in a way that is like to say it's bad. I really, the art would be the only thing I would ding it for, but after a while you start to like just it fades away and you don't care because the craziness that is happening in this book is so good that you can't help but like it. And then you get some of the most wacky deaths, like when they're in the zoo and like with the piranhas and the polar bears and the anaconda.
It's almost like the art works with that stuff.
Yeah. It's very serviceable. And then go ahead.
There's some John Wickian type of humor in there where like the deaths are so extreme. Like sometimes I'll see a death is so extreme, I just have to laugh. It's just so absurd. You know?
Yeah.
So that's what
I don't know. Should we talk about spoilers of this? Because this book is really old. Like, I mean, if you haven't read it by now.
It's 23 years old. So
yeah, I think we could talk about spoilers. So one of the things that really cracked me up is whenever the clinical psychologist guy, he goes back to Martin and he's like, he gives him his basically a psychological profile of the Punisher, but it's really flowery and psychobabbly. And he's reading this and he goes, yeah, like this is not what I expected, bro. I expected like a profile. This is just a bunch of psychobout. Man, how about you go back and work on this again, and then we'll reconvene and we'll talk about this. And then he goes and talks to like his chief or whatever, and comes back into the room like I would say like 20 minutes later, and the guy hung himself in his office with the tie.
Yeah, I remember that.
I had laughed out loud when I read that because I was like, oh my God, this guy is like a snowflake from the year 2022. He just could not handle criticism. And like he goes into his note, his suicide note, and he's like, oh, I've always been rejected by women and every man treats me like I'm nothing and like this. And then like the last PS of the letter is, oh, by the way, tell Soap that he doesn't have to listen to any more of my psychobabble. And I was like, ooh.
Another thing for Soap to feel bad about. I remember this is my first foray into anything Marvel Knights, so that was a little bit more adult. And like I remember reading this, I was like, oh my gosh! Like I mean, there was like some dark humor in there. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was
Well,
one
I
of them.
remember like after like Soap's dead. Buddy Plug is dead, right? And they called him
Yeah.
B Plug. B Plug is what they called him, and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, that's hilarious. So he's already been hauled off to the morgue or whatever, and like Soap walks back into his office, and the tie is still hanging there. He's like, God Almighty, they could at least taken down the tie. And it's just like insult to injury for him, because whenever they were like it was like the commissioner and like one of the lieutenants was reading the letter just laughing. I was like, oh my god, this book is just so like it's just such a crazy amount of dark humor, and
Yeah.
and it's really good for it. So and where else were you ever going to see the Punisher punch a polar bear in the face?
Oh yeah.
I that was another laugh out loud moment for me. Like he's running away from, because he doesn't have any guns in this one scene. He's in a zoo, and like he grabs one guy, and he's like, oh, I need a gun. And so he basically grabs this guy and dunks him into a piranha tank, upside down. And I was like, I have to suspend my disbelief here, because piranhas don't really eat people that fast or anything that fast. But it was funny how like the guys come in and it's just like a skeleton with like two legs left on it, like because he dunked him in there for so long. And then he's like running by this one enclosure, and he goes, what's in there? And he goes, oh yeah, that'll work. And he kicks it and smashes the window, which I thought, that's another thing. I was like, I don't think you can just walk by an enclosure in a zoo and kick the dangerous animal exhibits window and have it shatter and have them like attack people. But it ends up being like an anaconda that immediately grabs some dude. And then that's whenever Manucci and all them follow him down into the polar bear enclosure, and he's running past, and he's like, man, I wish I could have picked up a gun. And he sees the polar bears, walks right up to him, and he's looking him in the face. He's all, oh man, you're way too docile and nice. And so he punches him in the face and then runs towards the bad guys. That was so awesome of a scene. I really loved it. And then Manucci gets horribly maimed. You think she's dead, but she's not. She's alive, and she's just missing all of her limbs at this point.
Yep.
And that's when she becomes like really, really grouchy. That whole scene where she's standing with all her henchmen after she's like been put in her hospital bed, and she's like commanding them to do all this stuff, and she's like, okay, I need you to go do this. He's like, well, Ma, I can't do this. And she goes, hey, guy standing next to him, shoot that guy, because he said he's questioning my leadership or whatever. He's like, no, ma'am, he's like my best friend. She goes, okay, guy standing behind him, you shoot both those guys, because these two guys are now pissing me off. He's like, oh no, we're best friends. And it was like most of them were all friends, and like finally she gets to one guy that'll do it. Oh man, just stuff like that really made this book enjoyable. And if you haven't read this yet, you're reading the current Punisher. I would highly suggest. We haven't even talked about, I would say we've talked about maybe a third of what has actually happened in this book.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cheap now. I think you can get it for like, it could be had for like $20 in some places if you can find it. And it's, like I said, it's 12 issues. It's a really quick read. And it's just, it's all fun to be had. And I don't know if you guys had any more thoughts about this, but.
Oh man, it's what really reignited my fandom of the character. I just really remember enjoying that a lot and followed it. To me, it's like, I really love the covers, and I understand not like you didn't hand draw all of that, but I love the art of it like so much. I wanted to collect all the covers, and I want to like frame them. I like them so much, and like there was I forget the name of I used to know the name of the guy who was like the model for the Punisher.
Oh yeah, we met him at the one convention.
And like I was such a fan, I would like meet that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That guy actually has long hair. It's not slicked back; it's just pulled back, so it still gives that look.
That makes sense when you look at this cover. It looks like it's just slicked back, and ponytailed.
And because I just associate, like, to me, like, this is the Punisher. You know what I mean? This is like the ideal version. Even though I do appreciate the superhero tights, white gloves Punisher, I have an appreciation for that. But I'm like, if I'm Punisher, or if I'm going to do some recreational reading of Punisher, it's going to be this.
Yeah. This came out, and I mean, I like doing cosplay, even though at the time it wasn't cosplay. But I looked at the cover of this and was like, I could do that.
Yeah,
just a T-shirt and some cool tactical gear and stuff like that.
Yeah, a T-shirt. He always wore like the Alice gear, where it was like, the shoulder straps, and it was connected to the Alice belt. Pretty
easy stuff.
Pretty easily do this. That's not the way he looked in the comic book at all. But it was kind of traditional Punisher, but without the white gloves and stuff. He still had like,
it's like this kind of made it okay not to have the white gloves and stuff. It was kind of this is what he'll realistically do,
Yeah. I was there for it.
I was there.
I was ready.
I was there for it, but I was not there. I was like, like I said, I was in a comic shop and I saw it and I was like, yeah. But nowadays I can appreciate it as a middle-aged mutant and appreciate it much, much more than at the time. And what I was going to do in this section was actually going to juxtapose this a really good. I wanted to talk about the good before I talk about the not so good. And we have spoken about the Punisher from I guess it would have been 1998 Punisher would have been I think that's whenever that part of the Marvel Knights was going on, where he was the risen from the dead Punisher, where people would actually like pray to him to come and like, oh, please come and stop my husband from doing this to me and that to me.
It was kind of like he was like a archangel, like,
He had supernatural powers, and I don't know. I think what they were gearing him up for was like he's going to be in the vein of like Blade and Ghost Rider and that kind of stuff, which is fine. I mean, but it wasn't popular at all. It actually, I think it had a 4-issue miniseries that just died on the vine. It was really bad. And then they had a crossover that was at the time was done by Pat Lee. Who was really popular at the time, even though I think the only thing that Pat Lee could draw well was the Transformers. Whenever they would put him on like normal comics, I was like, I don't think you understand how people look. It's kind of a strange.
Robots, yes.
Yeah, robots, yes, but people, you have a hard time with people. But there was a crossover between that particular Punisher and Wolverine, and I think it was only a couple issues, and it died as well.
Yeah. There was one thing I wanted to say about Garth Ennis. He's probably my favorite comic book writer of all time. I just really enjoyed it. And it's funny, I'll see on Twitter, like, man, there's people who will hate anybody. Apparently there's people who hate Garth Ennis. I'm like, I don't even know why. I enjoyed it. I didn't bother looking why people didn't like. I was like, I'm not even going to care about that. But one thing I will say, Garth Ennis apparently I haven't read any interview or anything, but anytime he writes for Wolverine, I'm like, I think he hates Wolverine.
Wolverine gets the bad beating when it comes to
isn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't Garth Ennis write Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know, but I know his run, like he had Punisher run over Wolverine with a steamroller and shoot him in the balls with a shotgun and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Had some fun with Wolverine.
Yeah, he did.
You're going to see Wolverine doing something.
Yeah, it was Garth Ennis that wrote that, and Doug Braithwaite did the art. I remember that book, and he messed the Wolverine up. He threw him onto like an electric fence, and it like just burned him up from the bottom to where there was nothing he could no healing factor could completely remake him. Go ahead, Noach.
You're going to run into some Wolverine maybe hate. I'm not sure yet, but
well, I do. I am reading so I read all of the Frank. Welcome Back, Frank, and now I'm reading because 2001 is when they started up again, and I'm reading it. It already goes like, well, you know how like at the end, Soap basically, they never get the Punisher. But Soap and his counterpart, they get approached by the Punisher, and he's like, "Hey guys, I like, okay, so you're not gonna get me. I'm not gonna let that happen. But I do need to know who this Payback guy, Elite, and the Holy are. and in return for you giving me this, I will give you this. And he basically had gone into Manucci's safe, removed her files that she had on the commissioner and like the I think the mayor, and gave them to the Soap and the other lady. I never remember her name. It starts with an R or something like that. But anyways, gave it to them, and they used it to blackmail the current the commissioner and mayor, and Soap becomes the commissioner of the police. And then and he's like, oh yeah, and he's all like a big shot, and then immediately in the next issue, like when they start back up, he's like, oh, hey, Detective Soap, how are you doing? And I was like, what? He's Detective Soap? Is this a prequel? And it turned out like he blackmailed them, but then they blackmailed him because he went and I guess he slept with a hooker, and it was actually a hooker set up by them, and so they basically blackmailed. He goes, who knew that I would get blackmailed? I was like, that's so funny. You just cannot win. That was such a good storyline. But we're gonna move on to so here's the good Punisher that I suggest people read, and here's the not so good Punisher. So this is the current run done by Jason Aaron, and it's I don't really, it feels kind of like a retcon of the Punisher's past. It basically goes in and says he was always meant to be this like killer of like king of killers. He was born to be like this the fist of the hand, because in this book he basically from the time he was a little boy, he was like always drawing like horrible murder scenes in his little book, and they make him out like he's going to be almost like, they almost kind of make him out like a school shooter, but they don't completely make him like a complete piece of shit. Like he doesn't go and like kill little animals, and he doesn't really bully kids or anything like that. He if he sees a kid getting bullied, he will stand up for them. But it's kind of like almost like he does it because he does have a sense of right and wrong, but he also does it because like, well, this guy will help me out later. And it is a far cry from anything that you have seen in the past. It kind of does remind me a little bit of the super serious ethereal Punisher, in that he does have superpowers, and he gets them later in the book. But so he starts off in school, and then he becomes a teenager, and he gets with Maria, which is his wife in this as well. And he meets along the line, he meets Micro, and Micro basically is just like a friend he has in school, and he stood up for him once, and then Micro is basically they're friends, but Punisher kind of like, he's like, well, Frank basically treats him like, yeah, you're a friend and all, but not that good of a friend. And eventually the Punisher meets Maria, and then Micro makes sure that they basically get together, because he's like, oh man, I want him to be happy because he's such like a serious guy. And he does, but then he like basically does away with Micro. Like you never see Micro again, because he moved on to another person that he could like. And then he has all these issues where like he's constantly getting in fights, and he's going to get kicked out of school. And when he goes home, he just kind of like, he basically like trains himself. Like he'll sit there and he'll shoot his BB gun on the roof. On the roof of his building. And one day something changes his life. Like there's this guy who he's just basically this Goomba guy that makes an advance against this woman, and she doesn't reciprocate. And so he just starts beating the shit out of this woman in public, like in view of the entire neighborhood. And Frank's on the top of this building looking down on this. So this guy's beating this woman to death. And the guy's, the lady's boyfriend shows up, and he tries to intervene, but then he starts getting his ass kicked, like just viciously kicked. It turns out both of them die. And the whole time Frank is looking down on this, he's got his BB gun, he's pointing it at this guy, and he's just shaking because he's too cowardly to do anything at the moment. But then he goes and he sets up this elaborate plan to get this guy back, like avenge these people's death. And so he goes and basically sets up this horrible death trap where it kind of reminded me of like this is like a trap pulled directly out of Home Alone. Where he had this bucket above the guy's door, and it was full of homemade napalm. And so the guy opens the door and it spills onto him. And the Frank Castle sitting there, and he's got a Captain America, like you remember those old plastic like masks that we had when we were a kid, where you'd go and buy it from the store, and it had like a plastic shirt that said just the superhero's name on it. It wouldn't even be like their suit. It would just be
you could put your tongue through the one part.
Yeah.
Like that little mouth part. Little mouth part for speaking. And
the little mouth
tongue
part
up on that.
So he basically had a Captain America mask like that. And he told the guy, like, he's like, who are you? Or so. And he says like vengeance, or so. I don't remember what he said. Yeah. And then he like takes a lighter and a can of like hairspray and burns the guy to death. And like that's like his first murder that he ever commits. And so all the while this is happening, the archpriestess of the hand is basically watching all this occur, and she's like, this is the guy. She's like, this, we thought we found the fist of the hand before, but Frank Castle is the fist of the hand. He is the one. We just need to like basically let him go through these like life things for him to become like the ultimate killer. And the High Slayer is what they call him. And so they let him go through the military and all this, and then he gets back and he's like, man, the thing that I did not like is how they like, I don't think they get how guys from the military come back and act. It's not like this. So he goes to the military, but before he did, he has a relationship with Maria. He signs up for like the Marines, and then right as he's leaving, she's like, Frank, I'm pregnant. And he's like, doesn't say anything to her and just leaves. And he goes to the basic, I guess it would be boot camp, not basic training. He goes to boot camp. He makes his way through that. He goes overseas. He goes to war, and he just survives, comes back, and he starts a life with Maria, but he is like a super dick. He just doesn't, he likes her. He tolerates her. He puts up with it. He has kids. He has intimate moments with her, but he does stuff like where he'll go outside and he'll sleep in a tent every night. He won't stay in the house, and he's very much an absent father. His children are scared of him. He just acts kind of like a psycho. And eventually he starts to come out of that a little bit. And then by that time, he starts taking his kids to the park, and I know what's going to happen here. He takes his family to the park, and it seems like he's getting his life together, and he's starting to come back. He's not as bad as he once was. He's nicer to his wife. His kids are like him a bit more. And then all of a sudden they get all murdered, and you find out that it's the same kind of deal. But that basically sends him into a rage, and he becomes a Punisher, just like normal Punisher. And he does all these things. But then he gets ambushed by the Hand later, and that's when they're like, "You're going to become." They basically tried to kill him, and they said, "If you die in this encounter, we know that you're not the High Slayer." So he fights them all, and I mean, he fights them, and he makes it through just fine, maims and kills tons of the Hand. And they eventually say, "Oh, okay, yes, you are the High Slayer. You've passed the test." And they take him to their citadel, and he basically is like a king there. They give him his own place there. And another thing they do is they bring his wife back to life. So she died in the park, and apparently the Hand, much like Ra's al Ghul, can resurrect people. And so they resurrect Maria, and she like really doesn't have any memory of what's going on. She just knows that, oh, Frank's here, I'm happy, but where are the kids? She keeps asking where the kids are. And the comic just goes to like, he basically uses the Hand as his army to go and smash people that he thinks are like, that deserve punishment. Like the first group of people he deals with is Ares. Ares has an army of minions that he keeps warehouses full of weapons that he gets, and it's mostly like crazy stuff. Like he has like he called it the Banner Buster or something like that, and it was like a minigun, a gamma ray minigun, and he had like just crazy guns like that everywhere, and he's selling them to bad guys so he can start all these wars. Well, the Punisher's like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let you do that because you you end up killing innocent people. So he goes and he basically starts this war with him by sending the Hand in to destroy these caches of weapons and all of Ares' minions. And Ares is like, nah, this is not, you're not going to fly. So the main conflict of the story, at least in this first 12 issues, sorry, is it 10? Yeah. First 10 issues is between the Punisher and Ares. And, eventually the Punisher, starts to lose, but then he eventually triumphs because he starts to gain like these powers that they said were like, I think they said were blessings of the Hand is what they call them. And it's stuff like his eyes will glow red and smoke, and he can see, like, basically see your, I don't know if y'all have ever watched that movie, Frailty.
Yeah,
he can basically see your sin or your wrongdoings. And then he what was the other thing he could do? I think the next one, because Daredevil shows up eventually. Daredevil's like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but this is all bullshit. You cannot listen to these people. They will, this has happened to me before. They're just doing it to you now. And he says, I'm here to save you. And so he goes and they get into a fight and everything. And he is possessed apparently, because at one point Matt pulls out a cross and he's all, they told me to do this, is that this ever happened to me, and he places it on the head of Frank, and it actually starts to sizzle because there is something like it, like I guess like possessing him. And then at that point you find out, and it's so silly, he finally starts to get the best of Daredevil, because usually Daredevil whoops his ass because you just can't. Daredevil is fisticuffs wise, he's like not equally matched by just about anybody.
Masterclass.
Yeah. So he goes to fight him, and he starts to win, and like Daredevil, like, what the hell? You're like super strong all of a sudden, and then he notices that they're both floating off the ground. So they've given Punisher the ability to see your sin, super strength, the ability to fly now. And then later he gains like almost like a healing factor. It's just a magical version of healing factor. And then I think he has one more blessing, and I can't remember what it was, but there's like 5 of them. And so I was like, oh, well, so he's basically like God, like a god at this point. Yeah, and the story goes on where Maria starts to wonder where the kids are, and he's like, well, you know, he doesn't want to tell her she's dead, and he tries to rescue her from the Citadel by taking her out. But if she leaves the Citadel, she begins to die, and it's just a bunch of stuff like that where he's basically trapped in this in the Citadel because he loses everything that he has, and then he can no longer be like this crazy Punisher. And there's a lot of things in it that I don't like. Like he ends up torturing a guy, which I've said in the past, like, Punisher doesn't torture people. He might make you think you're being tortured, but you're going to have to die if he does something that even remotely resembles torture. It's to kill you, not to just to like be a sadist, because he's not a sadist. He's a guy who went to war. He came back from war, and he was going to pick up the pieces of his life just because he's that kind of a strong, mentally tough dude. But this killing of his family basically broke that in him, and he's taking on the mob because that was what took his world from him. So yeah, I don't really like that. I don't like that they made him a torturer. I don't like that they made him like this kind of weird school shooter kid, not normal, just like, I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me. I like him better as like, I was a normal guy. I went to war. I came back to put my life back together, and then this bullshit happened. Yeah. It just seems to me like they're shitting on what made the Punisher a likable character, and now he's more of a evil, not all the way evil, but he's more of an evil dick than I would like him to be.
Well,
so, go ahead.
I'm like, just a character is going to be around a while, and I guess they're trying something new, right? So I'm like, okay, fine. There's been versions of Batman that I don't prefer over others and things like that. This would happen to be a version of the Punisher that I simply don't care for, right? But giving the Punisher his superpowers to me is, well, for one, like I said, like a product of simply being around a long time, and people are going to get sort of like, well, we got to do something with you that we haven't seen or in a different way.
Yeah.
Which, okay, sure, but it's sort of like if you give Batman powers,
Yeah, if you
It's
give
like,
Batman the Green Lantern ring is what it feels like.
yeah, I mean, he could sit on the Batman can sit on the Morbius chair, where he can have infinite knowledge and things like that. That's fine for like a little bit, but in his own book, that's not really what I want to see. And again, similar to Batman, there's a lot of similarities between the two, but similar to Batman, there's different versions of the origin. I always prefer the senseless act of violence from Joe Chill. He wasn't like hired by the mob or anything. He just happened to be some guy, right? I always liked that one. There wasn't in that was one of the things in the Batman movie where I was like, I kind of wish there wasn't like this deeply connected thing with the Waynes. I kind of just I like random acts of violence, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But have the hand be like, we're going to orchestrate this Court of Owls-esque type of thing to develop him. I'm like, it's not my favorite, but I guess after so many decades of the same thing, I get it. I get want to do new, but I would rather just.
I'd rather you not shit on him to the point where he's just a completely different character. It's just, to me, this is just not the Punisher that I like. But here's the deal. So I think this is, most of it's politically motivated because you have the Punisher, the whole debacle with the logo where they're like, well, all these hate groups are using it. And I'm like, no. There's no hate group that was using this logo. What was happening was the police and military were using it. I know in particular, Chris Kyle was using it as basically his branding.
Yeah, and
they didn't like that because you get all the connection to guns and stuff. And at Marvel, if you don't have the left politic, that they dislike that. And so this was basically a way to take the Punisher, change out his logo, so now he's completely different, and then they take away guns from him because for the most part in this he uses like knives and swords and stuff like that. I think he uses guns in it a grand total of twice, and one of them is because like there's the part in the book where the archpriestess basically shows up throughout his life. One time when he's a child, and she has these 3 knives on a plate, and she says, choose one, which one is yours? And at the first time he sees it as a child, he's like, I don't know, you're scaring me, lady, and he runs away. And then later when he's older and he's in this citadel, he gets asked the same question, and he reaches down and he grabs this particular knife, and it turns out this was the last one of the last fists of the hands knives. And she's like, oh, basically this makes you you have to be the fist of the hand now because this means this was so and so now we know for a fact that's who you are. And that knife he uses against Ares and ends up breaking. He takes that knife, he takes it back to the Citadel and says, I need you to make this into bullets. And so he has them take the knife and make it into like 9mm rounds, and he uses that against Ares in a pistol. And that's like basically the only time he uses a gun in there. That was it. And he does use like helicopters and stuff. And I wanted to tell the artist in this, which the art isn't bad, don't get me wrong, I don't know, but he doesn't understand, like, for example, like the Apache helicopter, that's not like a crew helicopter. He always shows it and there's like people looking out the back of it and stuff. I'm like, no, that helicopter carries like 2 people. And just little research stuff like that he doesn't understand, but it's fine. It's comic books, what are you gonna do? But other than that, I wouldn't say this, sadly, and I hate myself for saying this isn't the worst Punisher story that I've ever read. I don't like who they made Frank, but as for like what's happening in the current day with him, for like how he's taken on Ares and how now he's about to take on the Avengers. The end of this story, he basically becomes just like a god, and he's taking out bad guys while they're like, there's one point where there's somebody in a jet, like a private jet. He flies up and basically slashes the plane in half and kills everybody, and then takes off. And eventually they gets to the Avengers, and they're like, well, we got to do something because a Punisher who is this much of a badass is kind of a bad thing. So they show up at the end And so next, I guess issue 11 was where he's going to take on the Avengers. So not the worst thing I've read, but not the best Punisher I've ever read.
Yeah, I do think there is and this is sadly the Netflix series suffered from this, where they had a problem on their hands because it's like, well, gun violence is sort of a thing in the United States. It's just there. It is, around, and it's a highly polarizing issue, and it's this big political discussion going on, right? And then you have this character, the Punisher, where his whole deal is using guns, right? And very popular enough to continue to, even in this day, sell comics and even have interest in having TV series and maybe movies and things. So it's like, well, Marvel could just decide we're not going to do anything with the Punisher anymore, but they're not going to do that, right?
No, because he's still a valuable item to them, so they gotta
right. And so the series, the Netflix show, had this problem, which I guess is sort of similar to what this new comic is having, where it's like, how do we have the Punisher, who's a big gun guy, in a political climate where, Netflix and Marvel, most of comic books, most of media, it's like they're going to lean on the anti-gun thing, right? That's kind of, love it or hate it, that's what their deal is. It's like, so what the hell do you do with the Punisher? Well, in the Netflix show, unfortunately, they sort of just went the boring route to me. That was the most offensive thing to the Punisher series to me. It was just such a snooze fest. But they had to do like this,
Well, then they have wasn't there like a character kind of like Alex Jones, and
they sort of, where they had the Punisher, okay, he's going to use guns and stuff, but we're going to have this other character who's like this cartoonish, is like, I got a cartoonish level of like, I'm anti this, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. I'm going to use guns in a way that we don't like.
Yeah.
But Punisher in the way, but we do like. And it's like, they sort of had that there to kind of say, hey, this isn't the type of guy we're making. No, this is, and I'm like, oh my God, it's just so tedious to watch.
Boring.
And it is basically boring. Like, you can have that and be interesting, but good grief. And this comic series, to me, it's like, it's basically Marvel saying, we don't even want to touch that. He just has God powers now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
exactly.
Forget it.
Exactly. We took away the gun power, the godlike gun power he had, and we gave him regular God powers, which I think it makes him more deadly, but that's just me. But anyways, go ahead.
He's like, if he's slicing planes in half, we're a little bit, I guess it's so extreme and over the top that we're not really thinking about, we're trying to disassociate. I think it's a lot. I sense a lot of effort to disassociate here, to rebrand Punisher in a way.
I think they're taking him into a villain category too, where he's like, I mean, he does stuff like he like I said, he tortures. He even has like a daily ritual now of like, well, he's like, well, whose head am I cutting off today? Oh yeah, we have some people that are guilty. You can come and chop off all their heads today, or we could do it. And he's like, no, I want to chop their heads off. So he goes and basically that's his daily, like, oh, it's like 10 afternoon. Where are the guys whose heads I'm chopping off today? That's the kind of stuff in here. I was like, I don't think the Punisher would be like this. I don't think he would be like this.
I mean, this is just such a purposely different version, which, is fine to be tried.
It's what it is. But if it would have been a different character, I might have liked this more. Like I said, it's not a bad read. You read it and you go, well, it's not horrible, but it's just not the Punisher. It's somebody different. And I would say you should have done a different character. I would have liked it more. If you would have said, call them the Fist of the Hand or something, or the Fist or something. I don't know what you would call it.
Love the Fist of the Hand. Like, just like the hand that is the fist.
Yeah.
It's a hand. We can tell you that much.
We call them Fistivus.
Fistivus. There are digits and limbs and and bones.
Yeah.
But
anyways, this is what it is. Check it out if you. I mean, like I said, not the worst thing I read. Honestly, better than the Wolverine 1 through 12 that I read. I was like, wow, this is sadly better. But anyways, that's what I wanted to juxtapose in this our comic book talk today was Punisher of yore and the Punisher of current. I still think you could go back, read the Punisher of yore, and have a lot more fun and a lot more laughs, to be honest.
And that Middle-Aged Mutant thing where it's like we're basically saying back in our day better. That's essentially.
Well, we're old men now, so that's what we got to do. Bodz, do you have anything to add to this? I didn't want to overstep.
Well, since I didn't read it, but the cover looks cool. I mean,
yeah, that's
I
what
like
the interior artwork
looks.
It looks like that in the interior, so it's not bad. Just like I said, not my Punisher.
No, I don't. I don't know. That's the thing about. I've always liked characters that could stand with the the mutants or metas or on their own and not have powers. And Punisher in a way is kind of like Batman. He thinks ahead, and plans stuff, and and I like that.
I just think he's a better person in the past. He's a way better person than he is now.
He does have his morals, and and there was one thing that I liked. It is at some point in the Garth Ennis run. It might have been in the Max run where he was talking about the police, where he's like, the police who aren't crooked. He's like, I got nothing against them. They're just, I do things my way, and it always sucks when you see something bad happen to them. He wasn't like anti-cop. He kind of under like the crooked ones he would kill, but it's like I always liked that. He's sort of like, well, they have to do things their way. Fine.
Yeah.
Don't stand in my way. But I'm like, I kind of appreciated that. Now I'm like, I don't know. This Punisher, he would just, he wouldn't care.
I don't think he would give it. I don't think he would care. But anyways, moving on to the next thing. I don't want to lose Noise too quick. I think he's got to go here in a bit. But just two things that stand out to me recently. So we all know that Justin Roiland got cleared of his charges, right? He went on and I guess I could click to that one. He went on and he was accused of domestic violence, and it was a felony charge. And recently, I guess it was like last week we didn't have our show. That's when I was going to bring this up, but he was charged, and then now I guess the person who had brought up the complaint recanted all, and so he's been completely cleared of all his charges, and not before Adult Swim. I think Hulu, everybody dropped this guy, and I was just sitting there going like, well, what if, it's like if we had this system where people were, innocent until proven guilty, maybe that would be a better thing. Do we have anything like that?
No. Do you think due process works?
Yeah. Well, this is so strange to me, this whole cancel culture thing that I find so amazing. And to me, I'm just like, okay, so who's he suing now? Because he's got to have money at this point. I would be like, who am I going to sue now? Adult Swim? Yeah, I'm going to own Adult Swim. Oh, that's going to be awesome. Hulu. I'm going to own Hulu now. That's awesome. Because they go, yep, you're fired.
Yeah,
not pending no trial. Ezra Miller has gotten better treatment than Justin Roiland did.
Yeah.
And the coke that went on afterwards.
And he does a voice, right? He does.
He does Rick and Morty and most of the voices on the show.
He does.
So were they going to replace him, or I don't understand?
Yes, they already had a guy that he is actually friends with that does a spot on impression, and they were already talking to him. And I'm like, wow, I would be flipping pissed.
There were so many articles coming out like, well, he doesn't even do that much creatively. He just says the voice. I'm like, how do we know? It might be true. How do we know?
Well, it was like trying to cope. It's like IGN. I remember the first thing they said was, well, Rick and Morty don't worry, guys. Rick and Morty will be fine without Justin Roiland. And I'm all, what? The main character voice is
quick.
Oh, he doesn't even show up to work anymore. Blah blah blah. I was like, oh my god. I know that Cartoon Network and Adult Swim are like, God, please tell him it's gonna be okay, because if people don't pick up the next season, we're gonna be, screwed.
I know, but a lot of money ordering these new things. And there was something. This reminds me of when Chris Hardwick had that accusation along, and boy, people were quick. He had to be silent for like a while, which is like, what else to do? But it was like, I could just, and he handled it the way kind of have to, where you're just like,
Yeah.
that sucked. I'm going to pretend it didn't happen so I can just continue to do my thing. Right.
Yeah. Well, if
I'm
you're a
not
white guy, that's how you have to handle it, I guess.
Yeah, and it's like, but I'm like, I remember when that was going on. I'm like, okay, I may not be the biggest fan of him, but I'm also like, that sucks, dude. That's like,
Mm-hmm.
and it sucks for so many reasons. I'm like, man, he must be seething. And uh, I was like, it sucks on so many levels. It sucks for like the guy because it's like, okay, you can't be a creep, but man, this is like to an extreme. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm like, but it's like, and it sucks for the guy, obviously, and it sucks for women too, because I'm like, man,
Yeah.
do you want to create more distrust? Do you want to
Yeah.
create like any
'Cause-
equality out the window now? Because
Yeah.
they're like, well, you're all liars now. I'm like, no,
Mhm.
that one was a liar. They're like, so no one can trust each other. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Everyone's. It was like the ugliest part of everyone was on a display because like you read the text and stuff from Justin Roiland, they weren't great. You know what I mean? So you can't like defend him too much. But I'm like, well, he didn't do that. You know,
Mhm.
and to me, it always goes back. It creates this super weird mindset where it's like I feel like any accusation is going to be the legitimacy is going to be questioned now, and I'm like, well, yes, there should be an investigation, stuff like that. But I'm like, it kind of reminds me of like in The Hangover, Chang or whoever. It's like, but did you die? I'm like, I don't want the, I don't want the. It feels like now it's going to be like, yeah, but were you raped? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
no. Well, what are you complaining about? Because this stuff and nothing happened to him. I'm like, the worst part of everyone is going to come out here, and I think everyone's going to be so much worse off. But that being said, if the guy's innocent of this, I'm glad he's off.
Yeah.
And
I hope he
for
gets
sure,
revenge.
he should for sure sue.
Yeah, I would
grief.
sue. Yeah.
They
And
were so
then
quick.
the next thing I was going to talk about is in the same vein, Jonathan Majors gets arrested for assault and harassment. But the thing that cracked me up about him, because there might be new stuff about this. I haven't heard anything new yet, but he gets accused of this stuff, and then immediately on every article he denies allegations. But when Justin Roiland, it happened to Justin Roiland, they're all, oh yeah, he's accused of felony domestic abuse. Nothing. There's no caveat. He didn't. But he denies charges. And I was like, man, this is messed up. You can't.
When
Like, if this guy's innocent too, I'd like him to get, like, if it's okay, if he didn't do it, I want him to be cleared of it, not ruin his career. But you notice nobody was like, today he's no longer Kang, or we're digitally removing him from Creed. Nobody said that. But immediately Justin Roiland, all that stuff happened to him, like the next day.
I remember when I first heard about my first reading the Jonathan Majors thing, I'm like, he'll get away with it. Not get away with it. He will recover from this.
Far
and
easier.
it will be BS, but he will be just fine.
Yeah.
And and again, if he's innocent, awesome. But I'm like, regardless, he will be just fine.
Yeah.
You know,
It's gonna be a blip.
If Ezra Miller is still around, this guy will be just fine. He has nothing to do.
Yeah.
No, I still want Flash versus Kang choke point to happen.
Oh God. All right. Moving along from this, because we're gonna spend too long on this. But next thing on the docket is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. The new trailer dropped this morning. We all watched it. I won't be showing the trailer here because it's the copyright bots. I actually, I mean, I like it. Looks good. I never saw the first one. I think I was watching it with my nephews at one point, and I think I fell asleep, so I don't quite remember all of it. But from what I saw, it was okay. This one looks a bit more up my alley. Just like, I don't really like origin stories, so this being more a second, the sophomore outing, I think I'll probably enjoy this more. Plus, if Spider-Man 2099 is going to be a bigger part of this, I'm completely down, because I really more than Miles Morales, I super dig Spider-Man 2099. The only thing is, like, in this movie, I was like, is it like just me, or is the Spider Woman cyborg thing kind of goofy? Did y'all see that?
That's a woman.
Have y'all seen Spider Woman cyborg? I don't have a picture of her, but
No. I did. But I didn't know it was a woman.
That big cyborg. Oh my goodness! I the whole time I was looking at that, I was like, I can already tell what's going to happen in the movie with this. It's gonna be Spider-Man. Like poor Miles Morales.
Spider-Man.
Sorry, Sorry, sir. It's like Spider-Man. You know, and it's just that's what I'm worried about. That kind of crap is going to be in this. And I don't know if it was in the first. Bodz, you've seen the first movie, right?
Yeah, I liked the first one. I liked it a lot. I liked Nicolas Cage. He was the
Spider
Noir Spider-Man, and I guess no Peter Porker. I'm not seeing him in the.
Yeah, I don't
anywhere
see Peter Parker either. I see Iron Spider. I see Ben Reilly, which I'm happy about. I like Ben Reilly. A lot of people don't, but I like Ben Reilly.
Yeah, I thoroughly liked the first one, and the first one made me like Post Malone. So
yeah,
it had the Sunflower song.
That wasn't his best song though, either. Though the Sunflower or whatever. I was like, it was all right. It's not that great, actually.
I did not see it. I was not interested in it. I typically don't care for animated things too much. I don't really watch those. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure for the people this is for, they enjoy it. But I was like, not really for me. But, and so this one, I don't have much interest in it. I gotta say.
I think the Spider-Verse is kind of too like, I like the idea of all this entirety of like all these characters right here. I really like that kind of thing. I like, but I think we are getting multiverse fatigue in the in like the movie spaces. There's just too many of these movies that have to deal with a multiverse, which is, I mean, that's fine. It is what it is.
I feel like the only ones that can actually like do that successfully is Spider-Man and Batman. Like those are the only ones that really have that. I would like a Batman something like this because like there are so many different types of Batman. But I'll tell you what, Spider-Man 2099 looks awesome in this.
Yeah, I liked how they made him buffer because Miguel he was huge. Kind of like a skinny guy in the like much just like Peter Parker was in the original book, and so to see him like really like a beefier character, I was like, that's what was missing from him. He needed to set himself apart.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not like Venom buff, but he is much bigger than I would say Peter is, because we saw what the Peter Parker that they had from the first movie in here that is voiced by the guy from Let's Be Cops or whatever. I don't know the guy's name, but I don't know his name. I can tell you what his name is, but I like I like that they had that guy back in there and he had a spider baby or whatever. I think his name is
because if you watch the first movie, Jake Johnson. Like if you watch the first movie, like he has a whole storyline, and it has like a happy ending, and so it's
good.
It has some like heartstring kind of stuff,
I thought he was like a hobo version of. No, that's what I thought.
He does look like a hobo for real.
He just gets trapped over here, and like it bugs me to no end that he still never doesn't get the bottom of his suit. He's still having to wear like
sweatpants. I do see something else that I don't like in this poster. I just want to point out, like if you look in the like up on the right side of Peter Parker, Miles, it would be his left shoulder or the right side of the screen. You can see their cyborg Spider Woman is what they call them. You see Spider Punk. Well, kind of in between those, up and in between those, I think that's the Spider. I don't want to say cripple, but it's. I don't know if y'all ever saw this. I think they call them like the spinner or she was spinner. It is it is so funny that I just saw this. I didn't notice the first time. Okay, so like there's this universe where there is a paraplegic Spider Woman. Yeah. Did y'all ever see that?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. So like has a wheelchair normally, is a lesbian and is also paraplegic, and uses the this is too funny. it reminds me of like that the crippled kid on what is it called, South Park. Yeah, I think it's Timmy or something like that. Timmo.
Timmy and
Because he uses those hand braces, right?
Yeah, he uses the canes to walk,
Yeah.
and those are like the web shooters. And so I remember seeing this the first time in like was web slinging, and I was like, is it just me or the legs look too controlled? Because I think if you didn't have the use of your legs and you were a spider character, they would, like, as you were flying through the air, they would just be like flopping like independently of your.
I mean,
they would just flapping.
Like,
probably.
Whenever Joe Swanson does something without his wheelchair, they have those legs flying.
Yeah. I just I can't believe that's a thing, and it's seriously stupid that even prominently in this poster, that was one of those like, oh come on, Marvel, are you serious?
Yeah.
Everything in one character, come on, let's.
That's what he turned me off of the Miles Morales character. I'm like, it feels like that, and some Bendis things I like, some Bendis things I don't like, and this one is sort of like it felt cheap. You're combining, what I mean? Instead of like
and the extra powers and all that stuff, that's what
like instead of like a genuine effort to represent somebody, I feel like you're marking off things on a list instead of like creating like a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's really popular and whatever.
He's fairly popular. I still think that, like I said, I think they should ditch Miles Morales completely and go for $20.99. I would rather that as a comic. They do have him, like he had Spider-Man Exodus, and now he's got the one called Dark Genesis or whatever that are coming out, but it's not nearly the effort that they're putting behind Miles Morales. And I think it's just because it's in my opinion that eventually in the movies and in the comic he's going to become the only Spider-Man.
Yeah, and that's
I don't like it, but what are you gonna do? I mean, he's not an unlikable character, but he's not my favorite Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't dislike Miles Morales, but in the trailer, it looks like that Spider-Man 2099 is the bad guy.
Yeah, he basically says,
"Who do I root for?" I like 2099.
Yeah, I was like, maybe 2099's got maybe Miguel has a point here. I don't know.
Yeah, I like Oscar Isaac, so I mean, I don't know.
But we'll see. I don't know. I'm curious to see this movie. I just don't. I don't know how on the woke level how much are we talking here? Because there's some red flags when you watch this trailer. But what are you gonna do? It's 2023. This shit is kind of baked into everything now.
Yeah.
But moving along from this, so also the Secret Invasion trailer came, and this I haven't read the original Bendis run of the Secret Invasion, but I'm intrigued by this because of it come off to me as a spy thriller, and I was like, oh, I'm in. If you're gonna make it a spy thriller like thing, this is what Fury should have been in the first place. He should have been used in that capacity because I think he shines in that regard. And the idea of like them, because the current run is what I've read, the one that's still going right now of Secret Invasion, and some of it's, I mean, pretty cool. Like some of the just like you'll have Skrulls like setting traps for Fury, and he does get caught by them, but then I guess Shield doesn't exist anymore. Like Shield has basically just been enveloped into the CIA, and you see how they trap some of the Skrulls because they have like secret what is it called, like secret phrases between older members of Shield and Nick Fury to kind of suss out the Skrulls. And it's just this to me, I think is going to be a fun thing if they do it right. If it's done, woke and stupid, what are you going to do?
I can tell already it's got characters I like, because I really like Ben Mendelsohn as an actor. He's this Skrull buddy. If you watched that, where did they first come in on? Was it Captain Marvel? Is that where he first appears?
I believe so. Yeah.
the twist in there where like he's not the bad guy. You know, that was kind of a cool twist, and he ends up being a good guy and stuff. But I like him, so I'm glad he's back. And I obviously like I forgot his character's name from Black Panther.
Everett Ross, is that?
Oh yeah. If they'll scroll to him in just a second. But
look to him.
They'll scroll to him. There's Ben Middleton, and
sorry, this is a slideshow. It's not a
right there. Yeah. So Amelia Clark's in it.
Man, have you heard about that poor lady, Amelia Clark? What happened to her? She like lost like half her brain or something like that.
I heard about that, and like somehow she's. Yeah, one of the guys up at work was telling me about that. And I was like, well, she seems fine. But yes, something happened. Do you know what that was all about, Ty?
I don't. She has some kind of, I don't know if it's a genetic or abnormality or it was some sort of like, I don't know what happened. But she apparently had lost function of part of her brain. And I don't know if they had to remove some of her brain tissue or not, but I know that she now is working on like one half of her brain, and she had to learn how to read again and speak and all that stuff. So I'm like,
is that why Solo was so bad?
I think that's around the time it was going on. So
blame it on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just when I heard all that, I was like, oh my God, that sounds horrible. So I'm glad to see that she's still working. She's not really my favorite like actor or anything. She's okay.
I'm glad she's okay.
She's okay.
Yeah. There you got Maria Hill coming back. But that's gonna bug
I don't know what this is right here. The specimen sample Cull. Tim from
The Office, the British
original Office. Oh, I'm looking it up right now.
Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo Baggins. Hold on. It was
Martin Freeman. Martin Freeman.
From Sherlock.
Middle-Aged Mutants, people. The Middle-Aged Mutants that we have memory problems. Sorry.
But I'm glad he's in there, so I like him.
Yeah, because didn't he have something to do with Wakanda or something? I can't remember.
Yeah. He's that's where he's predominantly in the Black Panther movies. He's pretty cool.
I think this looks good. I probably will watch it since it's going to be on Disney Plus. Moving on to the next one. This is something probably more up your guys' alley. Let's see.
Well, there's War Machine too. Cool.
There we go. So the Blue Beetle trailer dropped as well, and like I said, I've only read a couple of things that actually had this version, the Jaime Reyes version of Blue Beetle. So I don't know him as well. And even the Ted Kord one, I think the only thing that I ever read about him was like Kingdom Come. And I think he was recently in the World's Finest that is being done by Wade and Mora.
Oh, okay, cool.
He's in it for a brief moment. He shows up to like kind of like save the day, but I did like in this trailer, it looked like they had the like Ted Kord's old vehicle, and they had a lot of the costumes as well. In the very last set of scenes, they showed like the old Blue Beetle costume, like I think the last two Blue Beetle costumes, and they
well, there's Dan Garrett, then Ted Kord, and then Jaime Reyes.
So I believe the villain in the movie is Ted Kord's wife. I'm not sure.
I don't know. It's Susan Sarandon is all I know, and I was like, why do they keep picking these old ladies?
They're intimidating bad guys.
It's just I don't know. After what was it? Lucy Liu and who was the other one? Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
I was like, this maybe let these ladies retire into something. Even Michelle Pfeiffer in Ant-Man. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, there's those costumes right there. They look good.
Yeah,
glad you got a screenshot of that. But I don't much like his. I guess it's his uncle in this.
Yes, calling
Batman a fascist.
Yeah, I do not care for his what is his name?
I'm just like
George Lopez.
Yeah, I'm just. Like,
I don't like him. I personally don't like him. And whenever he was like, I got mad because at the end he's like, Batman's a fascist. I was like, oh yeah, well it's better than being a a piece of shit who took his wife's kidney and then left her and then divorced her. I was like, yeah, I think you're a worse person than her, dude.
I think you're a little worse off there, champ.
Worse than Batman, yeah.
But Batman can buy a kidney wherever he wants.
Yeah. He doesn't need your kidney.
Yeah. Well, I did like.
Well, I was reading comments about it, and people were like saying, "Well, I bet a lot of people don't like Batman inside the Batman universe," you know. So I guess
I don't know.
I would think. I don't know.
I would think that. Well, it depends. I don't know.
I'm just like, well, you know what? You're catering this movie to DC fans, and Batman's a big DC character, and you're catering this movie to people who are already not caring about this movie because they're getting ready for the Gunn universe. And speaking of, this kind of does have a tie into this. I read yesterday that this is hot news. If you're listening to this
is hot
immediately,
news.
Hot news.
Naked ladies
that may or may not happen. But they did ask Chris Pratt if he would
oh my God,
be Booster Gold, and he said that if James Gunn wanted me to do it, I would consider it. So nothing, anything in stone or anything like that. I just like it's out there in the universe that Chris Pratt is aware that he could be Booster Gold.
That brings me. I'm going to mention something about that, and then also first of all, I just like I prefer the Ted Kord version, just the one I always knew. I don't know much about Reyes outside of that one episode of Smallville his character appeared on. Because this Blue Beetle's been around like a while, you know what I mean?
He has been, yeah. It's like at least early 2000s. Because
didn't he get introduced in New 52?
Before that, because he appeared on Smallville, so he's been around a while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, fine. I think a lot of people prefer Ted Kord, at least in comics, because Ted Kord, I'm not sure his timeline in any version of canon, especially the modern era, where it's like. In the modern era, post New 52, I'm not sure what his deal was. I thought, did he die at some point? Post, and there was the whole
Kord?
Yeah, because in Infinite Crisis. Yeah. But I'm like, in New 52 and onward, wasn't he supposed to not be around? And then he's like showing up a lot, which tells me people still like Ted Kord a lot. So he's just sort of around. I'm not sure what his relationship to Jaime Reyes is at this point. And so
I don't know.
But I'm like, because I prefer the Ted Kord version, I'm like, I'd rather just see a movie about him, but I understand why they're doing the Jaime Reyes version, the reason he was created in the first place. But I'm also like, I really have to be careful because I could say, well, if they're basing popularity, like if they're basing who gets a movie on sales, we would have nothing but Batman movies. And because I want a Booster Gold movie, I hope they don't base movies on it's because he would never get a movie. So I'm like, if it paves the way, then sure.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing with it is kind of confusing with Ted Kord because he does pop up like in Heroes in Crisis. I was like, I thought you're supposed to be dead, but then with all the rebooting and whatnot, it's hard to know. But like the big thing about him was like in I can't remember if it was Identity Crisis or what, but he stumbled upon, Maxwell Lord being a bad guy, and Maxwell Lord, who was their friend, he shoots Ted Kord, and Booster Gold, goes ballistic after that, And
that was the Infinite Crisis. That was his whole deal. He sacrificed. Well, he sort of was. He was sacrificed, I guess. But and so I'm like, okay, that sucks, but you have to have like a meaningful B-level guy to die, right?
Yeah.
And then he's back because I think people just like Ted Kord a lot. And,
it's hard. It's really hard
having like a tokenized character too. It's just like I don't know. I don't really. This is one of those things where you didn't need to change the Blue Beetle. I didn't need you to take a low-level DC character and race swap them, even if you did make it into a new character with a new new power and all that. I didn't need it. Like I don't have as Hispanic, I don't need to see myself in the DC universe or any universe to relate or like a character. So Jaime Reyes being Hispanic and them like basically using this as their way of getting Hispanic character in this area of the DC universe, I'm like, it wasn't necessary.
Well, he was the first Hispanic character.
Yeah. So
No,
or not. There was a lot
not.
for him.
yeah. This is stupid. I think it's okay, I guess, but it's. I mean, he's been around for so long, but I'm just saying, I wish that DC and well, mostly this is DC's fault. Like the actual comic company would just like don't kill off. Okay, come up with a new one. You didn't have to do this. You could have kept Ted Cord, and we could have just moved on. It's not like there's a gaggle of youths out there going, "Oh my gosh, I there was never a Hispanic superhero before, and now I have Jaime Reyes, and I feel like I'm part of nobody."
This is probably the exact same conversation that was happening in the 80s. They're like, and then they used Ted Cord. There was Dan Garrett. What was wrong with Dan Garrett? He was my man. He fought in World War II.
Yeah, so.
Exactly. But anyways, in the future, DC don't race swap characters, no matter.
Don't call Batman a fascist.
And don't call Batman a fascist. I just don't.
And I don't even know what a fascist means.
That line to me tells me kind of all I need to know about what movie they're trying to make. Honestly,
I worry about this.
So I'm like, oh great, here we go. That's my reaction to this. I'm like,
I just saw people commenting, well, I guess I don't need to watch this movie.
Yeah, no joke. That's exactly how I feel about it.
What are y'all trying to do? I don't know. Sabotage your own movie?
Yeah. That was stupid. Well, I mean, at this point, who cares? Because it's not going.
It's like
it doesn't matter.
Who does?
The only thing I can say is the suit looks like it does in the comic. That's about all I can say.
Yeah, they did a good job with the suit, and I do like the kid. He's awesome.
Zolo Mariduena. Yeah.
Zolo.
It's funny, if all characters could get it like spot on, it's Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
In a movie that doesn't matter, and I hate that. I hate having the knowledge that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now you're not gonna get Blue Beetle 2. This is it.
Yeah. Sorry. And the Rock steps in and goes, "It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter."
Yeah, the Rock is for come in and change the hierarchy.
And moving on to the next topic, I'm going to skip over the next trailer. I'm going to actually move on to the next topic, which is we saw Blue Beetle. We're going to skip over that. Deadpool 3 just got a comic book writer added to the team, and it's Zebb Wells. He's currently doing the Spider-Man. I guess it's just a Spider-Man run. I think he did some stuff with She-Hulk at one time, and the Marvels, which when I heard those two, it makes sense that what he's doing now with Spider-Man. After I heard he was part of She-Hulk and the Marvels, I was like, ooh, that's not good for Deadpool.
That's not good for Deadpool 3?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that kind of stuff whenever you when I ever hear She-Hulk or the Marvels, I'm like, ooh, no.
Like,
I mean, She-Hulk does break the third wall or fourth wall or whatever. So
yeah, but She-Hulk, man, no, thank you very much. After what they did to I don't know, are they doing it for comedy or what? Because they try to make She-Hulk and they try to make well, I don't know. The Marvels hasn't come out yet, so we don't know yet. But they tried to make She-Hulk funny, and it just came off as like, oh, unlikable. Everybody has talked about how unlikable they've made She-Hulk, and from what I've seen, hardly any character in there, and they even like push the narrative like, well, the fans are just a bunch of incel losers, because they apparently there's a storyline where She-Hulk is like, or not She-Hulk, it's a couple of her friends are looking online and they find these internet trolls that are basically like, how do we kill the She-Hulk, and they point that out, and it's, I guess it's supposed to be like an allegory for like people saying, oh, you guys suck at writing TV shows, and they were getting back at them for that. And so
it's like the reason why She-Hulk was one of the reasons why She-Hulk was terrible, CGI aside, was anytime like they sunk down to the level of trolls. When you go to war with trolls, you've already lost. You ignore trolls because trolls,
they want your attention.
Attention is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Any form of it. And if they got you so riled up, they've won.
They won. Yeah, exactly.
And you sacrifice your show as like this revenge show or something. And it's like, it's over. It's over. It's done.
Well,
I'm not saying they be upset, but I'm not saying they have no reason to be upset, but it's like, it's just like, you have to end it. You have to just go a different direction. Yeah. But, this is coming from the point of view of a straight white middle-aged mutant male.
Yeah, apparently nobody cares what we have to say.
And because, we live such privileged lives. I mean, I'm recording in my mansion at this moment.
Yeah.
That reported to me.
Yeah, my servants right now are at my beck and call. They're fanning me right now with reeds.
Yeah, I'm fan as a matter of fact.
So
they're fan.
Are you serious, guys? I'm just in my living room.
Yeah, Bodz, we all took different routes, Bodz.
You
I did not. No, I didn't know that was an option even.
Yeah, you just pay people to fan you, bring you bonbons and beers and whatever your poison is, basically.
What kind of person has bonbons and beers?
I don't know. I was looking at Peggy from every time I think of like lazy
Peggy Hill from Married with Children.
Yeah, that's that's what I think of. No, Peggy
Bundy.
That's
Peggy
what I think
Bundy.
of.
Yeah.
Bonbons.
How not?
I didn't even know what that was as a kid, and I was like, "Is that like a thing you can find at the store?"
But I that's who I imagined too. And when you said bonbons and beers, I immediately went to her character in Sons of Anarchy, and I was like, "Well, I guess that's probably
that makes sense.
What her character in Sons of Anarchy wants."
How out of touch with whatever wealth is. We don't even know what wealthy people do. They just drink bonbons and beer, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that
bonbons and beers.
Bonbons and beers. That's what you do.
That's what I would do.
All right, moving on to the next topic. So Sam Raimi sends a cryptic message to Bruce Campbell, and this graphic will become quite clear as what's going on here. I actually made this. He didn't actually have it.
Did you make that?
Yeah, I made that.
Oh, I would have loved if he did have that in his hand.
No, I found that was the part where like he goes into the demolition derby and he dips his hand in the oil and he's like due for an oil change and a valve job or something like that. Like taste the oil. So funny. And I thought, man, it looks like could be holding a burger, so I put a burger in his hand. But
perfect.
After the South by Southwest premiere of Evil Dead Rise, Sam Raimi sent this to Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell posted it on Twitter, and it just says, "Hit the gym, lard ass." And when I first saw this, I was like, "Oh, whoa! Does that mean that Bruce Campbell's coming back?" And I think it was just like he hadn't seen
that's
him
what
in a
I was
while.
hoping.
I think he just hadn't seen him in a while, and he was like, "Man, you got that." And I was like, "Should Sam Raimi really be talking about people getting fat?" Because last time I saw him, he didn't look skinny.
I don't know. I like to think maybe, he's just saying, hey, you need to, get ready because we're going to make another one. But
I would love that.
Bruce Campbell himself is the one who's saying that, like, he's out. Like, he's saying he's out. Like, he's just done. But, like,
here's the deal. Bruce Campbell's he was 20 something whenever that first movie was made. So he's about 60 something years old now. He's got to be like 65 at least.
And he's a very physical actor when it comes to being Bruce or being Ash. Yeah.
In my 40s, I feel like most days when I wake up, I feel like I've been like playing a game of like tackle football or something like that. At just like yesterday I was playing tackle football or something like that. And so hold on one second. Sorry about that. Technical difficulty, people. Sorry. Anyway, so most days I feel like sore every time I wake up, and like it sucks. And so I can't imagine at 60 going and doing all this physical stuff how you must feel on a daily basis.
I want him to, but I want him also to live, to be 100 and something. So you take care of you.
Yeah, if you're listening, Bruce
Campbell. Yeah, I'm sure you are listening out there.
Yeah, you are number one fan.
We worry about you, Bruce.
We worry about you. Take care of yourself.
You're an OG mutant. Take care of it. Well, the thing is, if they got him out there doing a movie and they got him in the gym, he is taking care of himself technically. Yeah. But I just can't imagine the hell that he must, like I said, he must be held together by Ben Gay and Advil. That's
Yeah. Well, if you remember, Burn Notice, he kind of started off, a little
Yeah, he was a little
heavier
chubby.
on the beginning because that was his character, But as the show progressed, and he had like the Sam Axe movie, and then afterwards, right after that was the Evil Dead show. He did, get down to looking pretty good,
Fighting
like
shape.
getting,
Yeah, he did.
yeah. So that's something I'm saying he can't do. I've heard him in interviews saying that it's just hard. It's just
Oh yeah,
hard
it's
for
gotta
him.
be. It's gotta be hard, dude.
So
yeah, a lot of this. We're it's a lot of this like, and there's a lot of this in pro wrestling as well. It's like just retire. It's just sad. to watch.
Yeah, you're just like Sting, who hurt himself like in that last match. I was like, yeah, you should be done. You hurt yourself really bad.
Yeah.
Like watching one of the Undertaker's last matches, I was like, man, what else do you need to do? You've earned your retirement, man. It becomes less and less believable every time you're out here, and we already have to suspend our belief a lot.
Yeah.
It's sort of like or we talked about before. It's like, just be old, just go
enjoy yourself.
Okay.
Retire.
Yeah.
Hand it off to somebody else and just retire. But have fun. I don't as I said, I don't want to see I don't want to see Harrison Ford doing this anymore. I really don't want to see Harrison Ford doing it anymore. And I just don't, I don't want to remember Ash as being like this lumbering guy, like limping through the, the set. I just want to remember him as he was and let him retire and be happy, I definitely do not want his son to take up his mantle because holy crap, no. And, yeah, I just stay out of acting, kid. Stay out of acting. But Bruce Campbell himself, I would like to just remember him as he was.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I have to step off, so I will catch you mutants on the other side. Always a good. I don't know why I said that. I never say that.
I know. It's like, are we dying? Is it?
We're dying now.
We're dying.
Over the hill mutants?
Yeah. So, on that weird, awkward note, I will.
All right. Thanks, No H, for showing up, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Well,
and we
for
only
this
got
next segment, this next and last segment is called "What Does No H Think?" Oh, well, crap.
Oh, well, yeah, he's gone. Sorry. Well, we really only have. I'm only gonna go. We're gonna just do this last topic. So
okay.
This might be more relevant to just me and you, Bodz. So Brendan Flavor, as you and I know.
Oh yeah.
Brendan Fraser wants to do a mummy a movie again, and I say
give that man a mummy movie.
Do it. Give him a mummy movie.
Let him do it. I know he if you look at that picture right there, he's already looking a lot better than he has been as of recently. So
yeah, poor guy.
He's had it rough as of lately, but he he's got his Oscar there. He expressed, like you just said, that he wants to do another mummy movie, and I know he said something recently about like wanting to get that 6-pack back and stuff. Yeah. So go for it. It would be good for I will watch it.
Yeah, I would.
But he's kind of in the same boat with we're just talking about with Bruce Campbell and all the older actors. He's not older, but he's done a lot of stunts. That's
in his 50s. I would say he's got to be in his 50s. But so he's super old.
He said that he's done a lot of stunts in the past that have just kind of hurt him. So
yeah. Well, I mean, most of his stuff, he like the first 3 Mummies movies, it was all action movie. I swear he must have done. He had to have done some stunts when he was doing like George of the Jungle, and so even in Encino Man, which I got my wife to watch recently. There's some stuff in there that he did that was pretty, stunty.
I saw a meme the other day from it was posted by one of our old friends. You remember Neil?
Yes.
So if you're listening, Neil, I doubt you are, but maybe you are. You post this meme and made me think about this. There was a picture of Brendan Fraser and Keanu Reeves, and it said if there was a movie called Movie just starring these two, I would watch it no matter what it was. And I'm like, I would. They're like the nicest guys. So.
Yeah. Well,
I hope he does.
I hope he does. I really I enjoyed the first two Mummy. Well, not as much as ever as the first. The first,
Yeah, the
Mummy
first
movie,
is just
they came out of nowhere. I
freaking.
remember we were in college, and at the time, the only other movie that I can remember that came out was around the same period was not Austin Powers. That would have been the second Austin Powers, but the Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
So this was pretty close to that time, and I remember of the two movies, I would say, I mean, I like them pretty equal, but I would say probably The Mummy was my preferred movie, just because it was. I mean, it made Brendan Fraser badass because he wasn't really. He was
No,
just,
it wasn't.
I mean,
he was just
he was in
kind of
Encino Man and Airheads, and I think he was in Blast from the Past, I want to say.
yeah. He
And
was.
in
I just
that
don't remember
one
when
movie
that
where
came
he
out.
played like a Jewish character that was getting
Oh,
harassed.
School Ties. School Ties.
Yes. So he was. I mean, he was doing well. He was on high. That's why he probably got cast.
I just remember he had like that movie was like your Indiana Jones like character. He had like, if I remember right, I think he had like 245s in the shoulder holster, and then I think he had like revolvers on his hips. Like he had 4 handguns.
He had the 2 revolvers were shoulder holstered.
The shoulder holsters, that's right. And they were like the Webley.
Double action revolvers. Actually, no, I don't know if they were Webley because he was loading them from the back. They were in a break action.
That's right.
They weren't a break action.
I'm thinking Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones has the Webley revolver.
And then he did have 2 1911s he would pull. Like in the beginning battle that he had, he was using I believe he was using like an Italian rifle, a bolt action rifle, and then he switched to he started using his double action revolvers, and then he switched out, I think, to the very end with his 1911s. And so he was, I mean, he had a trench gun, he had everything. His character was really like armed to the teeth. And I remember just thinking at the time, I was like, well, wow, I mean, who would have thought? It's kind of like it's kind of people talked about him back then, kind of like they talked about Matt Damon whenever Born Identity came out. It was Born Identity. It was like, wow, just didn't expect it from Brendan Flavor.
Brendan
Flavor. So I wish him all the luck with that. I never saw the last Mummy, the Mummy.
You 3. Know what's funny is like I didn't see it when it came out. And literally maybe within the past year I saw it on TV. And don't get me wrong, he's still cool in there. But the fact that they switched out like Rachel Weisz, and I remember the first movie that came out when we went to go see it, you liked Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, Rachel Weisz, she was like really, like, I thought she was pretty in the first movie, and then I got to the second movie and I was like, like you less. And then
I was the opposite because like she had like weird, like she did her eyebrows too thin or something in the first one. I was like, that's weird. And then she had look normal in the second
one. Baby fat
like,
thing going in the first movie. Like she was like, oh, I mean, I haven't done too much, and I'm still like, I still have the like, I'm still heavy enough to be like, like attractive. And then it seemed like the second movie, she was like, oh, nope, losing all that weight. And I'm like, oh, dang, girl.
Yeah. You have to go. Well, anyways, they replaced her like the Maria Bello, which she didn't do a bad job. It's just I knew that Rachel Weisz was it. So I just hope they bring Rachel Weisz back. And then of course the brother. I like the brother, and I like the his like the guys I can't remember what they were called, but I want to say Jesuits, but I don't know if that's right. But the ones that
the Magi.
Sure, yeah, they were the Magi. They were cool. Magi. Cool. Yeah, he was cool. So I hope they bring that guy back. But the one character they said,
see him as Deuce Bigelow's like antagonist.
I know.
That's all I see him as now.
But the director of the original movie saying if they are thinking
Scott
about
Summers?
it is the only no, because that's Cyclops friends. But Steven Sommers.
Steven Sommers.
Steven Sommers.
No joke.
They said the only character they won't bring back is the original Mummy, the actor, because they said they're done with that storyline. Not that they said they have anything against that actor,
because that was the worst part of the second movie.
Well, the kid's grown up in the third one. He's grown up.
But I did not like him in the second movie. I was like, we not like. And that's the other thing.
They probably don't.
It's the trap of the Zorro movie. That that 90s trope where like the first movie, everybody, it makes sense. Like Zorro was a badass. And then what's her name? Not Richard Gere. What the heck was her name?
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Catherine Zeta-Jones is like a badass by the second movie. Like it's like fighting.
She's close to Richard Gere. Richard Gere and her, I get confused all the time.
No, I was thinking of her husband is what I was thinking of. What is her husband's name?
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas. There you go. That's who I was thinking of. But anyways, so that's what I don't know.
Who played a very Rick O'Connell like character in Jewel in the Nile and Romance in the Stone.
That's true. That's true.
There was just that time where there was those cool like adventure movies. You know, Indiana Jones came out and just like reinvigorated that kind of like trope. You know, the King Solomon Mines and stuff like that. And I don't think anything was out until The Mummy came back. Like The Mummy kind of, brought it back for just that brief time. I like Sahara because I like the books.
Did that come out before or after? I can't remember.
It was after all this. Like Sahara was like 2004. And unfortunately, it didn't do very well. I like the movie, but I read the
like
books.
Uncharted. The bit that I saw felt like Uncharted.
Yeah, because Dirt Pit, their old line of books by Clive Cussler, and he was the original Indiana Jones. Like you don't get a lot of credit for it because like Indiana Jones is so big, but he was around before Indiana Jones and stuff, and so. I've always liked those kind of characters. So yeah, I will watch 50-something-year-old Brendan Flavor, be Rick O'Connell again. So
yeah, no, I'll be happy with it. And plus, if it's
I don't even know where we came up with Brendan Flavor. I don't know.
No, you know why we came up with Brendan Flavor? It was Robbie.
It was Robbie.
Yeah, he was saying something. And he goes, Brendan Fraser? No, Brendan Flavor. And from that point on, I have always called him Brendan Flavor. So that's the inside joke, people.
I'm glad he's back.
Yeah, I am glad he's back. I'm glad that he won the Oscar. I'm glad that he's doing well. I mean, I did like him on Doom Patrol, so I was.
He was awesome.
Seriously happy to see him doing well. He's one of my.
I kind of feel like that's what gave him a comeback right there.
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of his.
Sir, I hope that you are successful, and I hope that you continue to do well and flourish, because what happened to him was really bad. So I don't.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge him winning anything. He should win a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's really. I mean, I've cut out some stuff just for time, but that was really all I had for today. I want to say thanks to No H again for showing up. Bodz, thanks for coming on and talking about this stuff.
So we're not going to get to that cold fusion theory we had?
Yeah,
we solved it, but well, maybe next week we have time.
Wait. Yeah. The world's going to have to be more patient with us. But
yeah, we'll get around it.
We'll get around to it. Poverty, the hunger, all that stuff. We'll get around to solving that someday. But
we've got all those answers. Just listen every week, folks.
Just listen every week, and you'll hear it eventually. But sorry we weren't on last week. We had a little bit of difficulties in scheduling. But to our 11 subscribers, I hope that you are coming back for this episode, because we are doing steadily better, and our views are increasing. So I am happy about that. But again, if you like what you heard today, then maybe show up next time for episode 7 of the Middle-Aged Mutants. I don't know what we're going to be talking about, but it's going to be fun. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Make sure to like, favorite, whatever you want to do, and we'll talk to you again in the next episode of the Middle-Aged Mutant Show.